Yep. Good evening. I'm calling the May 10th R.T.M. regular meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll? Oh, and it is 7:04.
Representative Adams. Here. Amboise. Here. Bailey. Here. Burrell. Here. Brennan.
He's not going to be here.
Bright. Here. Casper. Surf. Chase. Here. Kopp. Here. Crockett Hubbard. Dean Chimbrot. Here. Eben. Here. Frickman. Fritchie. Gardner.
Here.
Gothier. Gibbs. Gustafson. Hainline. Hanscom. Ivy. Caden. Massett. McElroy. Merritt. Norman. Aubrey.
She wasn't going to make it.
Thank you. Perry. Kristen Powers.
Here.
Sean Powers.
Here.
Pacino. Scott. Here. Semeraro.
Here.
Thomas.
He's online.
VZ Williams.
Thomas is here. Thomas is here.
Got it.
Easy Williams is here.
Watson.
Here.
Weaver. Wells.
Here.
Whitney.
Here.
And Rusk.
Here.
28. Okay, 29. Casper.
Okay. If we could all please stand for a moment of silence and the salute to the flag. Representative Burrell, would you mind leading us in the salute to the flag, please? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on our agenda is approval of minutes from April 12th. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Seeing no corrections, they are approved as they are. Public petitions. This is the portion of the R.T.M. agenda where the R.T.M. welcomes comments from the public. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or as directed, and if possible, submitted written comments. Presentations should be limited to matters pertinent to the town of Groton. The moderator or members through the moderator shall ask questions only in order to clarify the speaker's presentations. Responses may be given by the moderator and or by the town manager. Individuals should state their names and address for the record. First person I have is Tom Olson, please.
Tom Olson, 188 Crosswinds Drive, Noank. I'm here as a representative of both the Town Conservation Commission.
Can I ask you to move the microphone much closer to you so everyone
Okay.
online can hear you? Thank you.
Tom Olson, 188 Crosswinds Drive, Noank. For disclosure, I'm a member of the Town of Groton Conservation Commission. In that role last year, the Town of Groton Conservation Commission worked with the Tri-Town Trail and got 2 state designations for greenways established. And this is related to item I-4 on your agenda tonight for the grant for the alternate transportations. And that in that grant will support development of the greenway that has been designated by the state. I was the author for the application that was submitted, went through the town council, got approval, and then was approved by the Greenway Commission at the state level last year. And so I want to make sure that, that it was not brought up during the town council discussions with the grant, but that this is a part of the state greenway that's designated for. It's called the Groton Crosstown Greenway. It's been approved by the state, and it's just having additional information here in regard to the improvements that are being made. And this is and also in conjunction. A lot of people aren't aware that the greenway was approved last year because the signage hasn't been really out there yet. That's part of the ARPA grant. We're working with Parks and Rec Department to get that in place, and we're still waiting to have that joint effort between the Conservation Commission, the Tri-Town Trail, and the Parks and Rec. So just want to let you know about that and put that in consideration as you do your discussions relative to the grant. And look forward to approving that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Burke?
My name is Jim Burke. I'm at 234 Ocean View Avenue. I urge you to approve the budget for the 2023-162 Transportation Alternative Plan Grant. I was a bike commuter to EB from Mystic, and I did that for about 15 years. And I'm familiar with cycling along the route. Now, if you come in east-west in Groton, or Mystic heading to Groton, or anywhere in between, there's really 2 routes, and it's 184 or Route 1. But ultimately, those routes, they funnel down, and you end up on South Road quite often. So that's where people cycle. There's not options. And the roads along the bikeway, there's some safety issues that should be addressed, and those issues result in drivers and cyclists making poor decisions at times. So improved signage, markings, those will help both cyclists and drivers be more aware of each other. So as far as the impact of vehicles, really, if there's a bike, they're going to probably have to slow down, but otherwise, there's not a lot of impact. My hope is that your acceptance of this Transportation Alternative Plan Grant will improve bike safety and encourage bicycle commuting in the area. Bicycle commuting has its inherent dangers, but it can be a very rewarding experience for a lot of people. Thank you all for your time on behalf of the community.
Thank you. Brian Schaefer?
I'm Brian Sheffer, 98 3 Acre Road, Groton. I support the Transportation Alternative Plan. I cycled here tonight on many of the roads that they're talking about improving along that route. I think it's living in the city of Groton, it helps me come over here to many of the things we have here, the library, the high school, this building, the sports fields, Dairy Queen, all that stuff. So I think it'll be a good improvement for me if we could have that improvement to the road and make it much safer to cycle.
Thank you. Brian Kent?
Good evening. My name is Brian Kent. I reside at 101 Prospect Hill Road in Groton. I am president of Bike Groton, which is the local advocacy organization that that speaks out for cyclists and for people who walk on our roadways and trails in the town of Groton. I'm not going to talk about the benefits of cycling to the economy or to the health and wellness of the community, or even about the safety of this particular corridor and how it would be improved by this project. What I'm going to talk about is cyclists are often judged by those that don't ride bicycles as somehow being dehumanized or second-class citizens and don't belong on the road. But in reality, they have all the rights that you who drive cars have. Bicycles are vehicles. And the people who will use this facility are residents who live in Groton, who have families, whose children have gone to schools here, to the elementary schools, the middle schools, the Fish High School. We are business owners, we are taxpayers, and we are voters. I'm a small business owner. I employ people that live in Groton, and I ride a bike. And I will ride into the city of Groton down this roadway and back, and so will my friends and family. And that's, I think, really important to understand that we are not other people. We are the same as you, and we are asking for equity. I was before this body 22 years ago. I gave a presentation on the benefits of bicycling and trails and greenways because the R.T.M. was considering the match for a state grant that would have built a trail from this valuable community facility here that we're sitting in to the COP property. Many of you probably consider it an underutilized community facility. Groton Utilities was a participant in that project. They were all on board. They had designed the pathway from Route 117, starting at the Stone Building, which they were proposing to develop with their own money into an environmental education center for Groton school children. And they had designed, they were ready to design the path from there to the COP property. All that we needed was the R.T.M. to approve the 20% grant, the same thing that you all are considering tonight. And it was voted down. I couldn't believe it. And to this day, is there a trail there? No. Would there have been a trail there? Yes. So I'm here, I'm being very passionate about this because this is so important, because these decisions have generational ramifications. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy Berry?
Hi, my name is Cindy Berry. I live at 175 Laurelwood Road. I'm also speaking not on behalf of the work that I do at Ledge Light Health District. I'm just speaking as a citizen tonight, so please take that in mind. I'm also in favor of the alternative transportation grant, and I hope that you will be too. I think it's a smart decision for Groton. I've lived here for 33 years, and in that time, I think I've probably bicycled every single road in in both the town and the city. My son rode his bike to ball practice and had to ride down the streets. I was always very nervous about that, and even still to this day, we like to take family rides around Groton, and it's a real popular area in town. We know that car crashes that involve bicyclists and pedestrians are up in the state. This was data that was released last year by UConn. And so I think that this would go a long way to improving safety in the community. It's something that you'll be able to measure in 5 years. You'll be able to see that motor vehicle accidents regarding pedestrians and bicyclists will go down. I also think that it takes us a little step closer to becoming a bike-friendly community. And with that designation will come money. So we'll be able to apply for other grants in the future that we now cannot apply for. The third thing I think is really cool is that you all just established a complete streets committee. and policy for the town of Groton, which means that these projects will be looked at through the lens of safety and health, which is really cool. A lot of towns don't have that. So this will give us an opportunity to put the Complete Streets Committee in play. And I think that it'll really be a good thing for Groton, so I hope you'll consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have Mr. Uhas?
I texted him.
Okay. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak tonight?
Did you call his name?
Representative Surf, this isn't time yet. Hold on one second. Is Mr. Uhas in the room? Ron Uhas in the room? He is next door. He was supposed to come over.
Are you speaking to me?
No, ma'am.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm in favor of the.
Representative Surf, now is not the time, please. Hold on. Okay. Seeing not, are there any questions, direct questions for the people that, anything that wasn't clear? Representative Surf, do you have a question, a clarifying question?
No, I just wanted to say that I'm in
Okay,
favor.
but now is not the time for that? Now, that's not, it's inappropriate right now. Thank you. Okay. We are on to receipt of communications. Does anybody have communications they'd like to share? Okay, I have a handful. You all should have gotten an email Tuesday the 9th, forwarded to you from Betsy, from Brian Sheffer, who spoke tonight, correct? Wrong.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so you guys should have gotten that in support of the bike lanes. The subject is Depot Road, Thomas Road Bikeway Grant. And since he spoke tonight, I'm not going to read that, but you all have that in your emails. Another one from Jim Stewart, saying to all R.T.M. members, this letter is in regards to Wednesday's R.T.M. meeting in which a vote will take place for the Transportation Alternative Plan Grant. Sorry. I'm a member of the Groton Bike, I'm sorry, let me start over. I'm a member of Bike Groton and would like to send my support for the approval of this critical piece of legislation to improve bicycle safety in the area. I am also an avid cyclist and have traveled the route through Depot Road, South Road, and Thomas Road many times. I know firsthand how intimidating and dangerous this can be. Any improvement to these roads would greatly benefit bicycle safety when traveling this route. I strongly urge the R.T.M. to approve this 20% needed to move forward with this plan. Thank you, Jim Stewart, 11 Overlook Avenue, Mystic, Connecticut, 06355. And you all should have received that. Another email dated Tuesday, May 9th, letter of support for bike project in Groton to the R.T.M. through Betsy McCousher. I am J.R. Animus, resident of Groton, and also an avid cyclist member in the area and also an electric boat employee. I am writing to this letter to express my support for the proposed bike lane project in Groton. I firmly believe that this project will have a great benefit for many workers who use their bike as their mode of transportation. Having a designated bike lane will promote safety and awareness for drivers who passed by in our area. This proposed bike lanes will also enhance our community's interest into more health-focused leisure, which is cycling, knowing that our town is in support with this when this will get approved. Sorry. I'm also a father of 2 children, which both of them starts to show an interest in biking. My wife is also in the health sector job, is starting to be an avid cyclist in the area. I strongly believe this proposed project will be a great positive addition to our community. All the best for our Groton community. Thank you. Allison Palmer sent an email on May 10th. Hi, Betsy. I'm writing a letter in support of the proposed bike lanes to be voted on in this evening's R.T.M. meeting. Bicycle ridership has increased over 600% since the pandemic, and these bike lanes are critical for transportation, equity access, and crash prevention. Bike lanes create a frictionless system where all users have space to travel without challenges or conflict with other users. Both my husband and I would like for our support to be noted on behalf of Mystic Cycle Center, our bicycle shop. I'm also the vice president of Bike Stonington. Thank you, Allison and Chris Palmer, director of operations, Mystic, and co-owner, Mystic Cycle Center. Lori Hendrickson wrote on May 10th, bike path vote. Dear R.T.M. members, my name is Lori Hendrickson. I'm a resident of Groton and a teacher at Grosso Technical High School. I would like to vote in favor of matching the cost in order to receive the grant to use for the bike path on Route 1 and down Depot Road. I believe the bike paths increase I believe that bike paths increase the well-being of a community, and this town could be hugely benefited by this project. Thank you, Lori Hendrickson. Dear RTM, Groton has the opportunity, it was from Rosemary Simmons. Dear RTM, Groton has the opportunity to build bike lanes along South Road from the airport to Route 1 and down Depot Road to Bluff Point. The town has been awarded a $1.1 million grant for this project. The town will be required to share a 20% match, which equals $234,000. The RTM controls spending and must approve the match. If they vote to turn down the match, the town will lose the grant. This project will make it much safer and encourage more people to ride and commute by bike in both the city and the town. Please support this grant with the 20% town match. Thank you, Rosemary Simmons, 68 William Street, Noank, Connecticut. Thank you. And Jay Fortner. I'm in support of funding the proposed bike lanes. These additions to our roads would encourage biking and hopefully provide a safer route for the bicyclists. While working at Pfizer, I spent many years bike commuting from my home in Mystic using this exact route for the proposed bike lanes. I thoroughly enjoyed my rides and the gas and pollution avoidance that came with them. All that ended on an early October morning when I was hit by a car while riding near the airport. I hope these new bike lanes will minimize the chance of that happening again. Respectfully submitted, J.H. Fortner, DVM, retired. Are there any other communications? Representative Surf, do you have communications that you want to share? Representative Gustafson, do you have communications to share? Oh, hold on, we can't hear you. Sean, can this be moved up? Or can this be turned up anyway? It's online. Representative Gustafson, can you just speak so that we can hear your voice? Barely.
Turn your volume.
Try again.
Can you try again, please?
Testing. Hello? Hello?
Okay.
It's a little better. If you could talk really loudly, I'm sorry to ask you to do that.
Okay, is this any better?
We're better. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I received 3 communications in support of the Mystic Noank Library funding and 1 email in support of the alternative transportation plan, the bike pathway.
Thank you. I'm just looking at my emails really quickly to make sure that I didn't miss anything. I think that is everything. I think that's everything. Okay. Next is a report of the town manager.
I will be sending out a written report later tonight.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just plugging my phone back in. It seriously died. Okay, committee reports. You're up. Chair Powers.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. As we did our special meeting it was our first thing on our discussion was, it was new business. It's 3.1, 2023-162-2, the Transportation Alternative Grant Plan. Representative Chase read the resolution to the committee and made a motion to accept the grant funding, seconded by Representative Scott. I'd like Representative Chase to read the whole entire alternative grant resolution into the record, please.
I make a resolution to accept the Transportation Alternative Plan grant funding and appropriate the required match from the Capital Improvement Program fund balance, whereas the town applied for and received a Transportation Alternative Plan grant in the amount of $936,000 to design and construct a bikeway from Depot Road to Thomas Road along Route 1 and South Road, and whereas the projected total project cost is $1,170,000, and whereas the grant requires a 20% match from the grant recipient, now therefore be it resolved that the town council and the representative town meeting authorizes the town manager, John Burt, to accept the Transportation Alternative Plan grant funding and appropriate the required match of $234,000 from the Capital Improvement Program fund balance.
Thank you, Representative Chase. In our discussion, Director Berry was present. He explained the history of the request and that the funding became available through the grant, the cost involved in developing the plan, the area of the bike route, the impact of connecting the community connectivity plan for our town and our city. This was a primary need requested by the community, as well as our plan of recreation needs and assessment plan. Chairman Powers called for a vote. 5 were in favor, 1 was opposed. Representative Gardner, 0 abstentions. The motion passed.
Okay. Do you have a motion for the floor?
Make a motion to accept the grant.
Second, Chase.
So the motion was made by Chair Sean Powers, sorry, and seconded by Kathy Chase, Representative Kathy Chase.
I have a point of information.
Your point?
Could you just state who was opposed and then add that to the minutes?
I did. Representative Gardner was opposed.
Oh, it's not in the minutes, sorry.
Oh, it's right here. It is.
Okay. good.
Okay.
Right here.
Thanks.
5 in favor, 1 opposed. Representative Gardner.
Aye.
0 abstained.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any questions regarding the grant? Any further discussion? Town manager, do you have anything you want to?
Not me, if there's any questions, Mark Berry can.
Oh, I think that was. Director Barry, do you want to come up in case there are any questions? Actually, Representative Gardner had a question first, and then Evan. Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Mr. Berry, can I ask the reasoning why the proposed bike path is going from Depot Road to South Road to Thomas? What's the purpose of that? Why that particular route?
Sure, that route was originally identified in the 2004 Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan, which involved a considerable amount of public engagement, and there was an interest in creating what they designated as an east-west bikeway that would connect the town to the city. And it's taken us this long to get where we are now, and to have this opportunity to actually see that completed. Depot Road is part of a larger community connectivity project that we are currently working on. Right now, there's a bike path that goes down Route 1. We got funding a couple of years ago to put in a bike path from connecting at the intersection of Sutton Park and Route 1. It's going to actually go all the way out and connect to Midway Oval. And there will be signage along that street. So we're looking to create a network of bike paths and to improve community connectivity. And the 2020 Recreational Needs Assessment, one of the top priorities in the community was better connectivity. And this is exactly what this project does.
Thank you.
Director Barry, could you please introduce who's next to you?
Oh, I'm
Or ask
sorry.
him to
Yes, this
introduce
is Chris Faulkner from VHB Engineering. VHB worked with us on the original application in 2019, and I asked him to come this evening if there are any technical questions.
Faulkner, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Representative Evan.
Hey, thank you, Madam Moderator. I just first want to start out by thanking all the speakers that have come here tonight. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yes.
Very well.
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Okay, great. I want to thank all the speakers for coming here tonight and testifying on this alternative transportation grant. I just want to say I'm in full support of this. This is going to produce a real community asset that's going to enhance property values in Groton. It's going to enhance the desirability to live in this community. It's going to increase the health of our citizens. It's going to increase the safety of people who are accessing the street to ride bikes or walk. It's going to decrease car use and therefore decrease greenhouse gases, which is a great way to mitigate climate change. So I really feel that the basket of pluses in this case far outweighs any drawbacks to this project, and I just want to voice my full support for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Massett.
Director Barry, my report may be even for the engineer. Is there a minimum requirement for the width of roads?
So for the width of the road, it depends on, a lot of factors. If you're talking about South Road, probably the minimum lane width is 10 feet.
Okay.
Preferably you'd like to have 11, but 10 feet is generally the minimum accepted width for a lane.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Cerf.
Yes, I would just simply like to echo what Representative Evan has said for all the excellent reasons that she gave. This is a wonderful project to have alternative ways. I used to love riding my bike in Groton, except I just thought it was so dangerous. So anything that we can do, I think, will really enhance the value of living here, because it's a great place to bike. We just have to be able to have good bikeways and be safe doing it. And I do think it will enhance the value of living in Groton enormously.
Thank you. Anyone else? Director Barry, I just want to say thank you for applying for this grant. I think it's wonderful always when people go out of their way to get money for Groton that doesn't have to come from the taxpayer. So thank you very much. Are we ready to vote? Any other questions or comments? All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. If you could lower your hands, please. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Representative Gardner, Representative Bailey. Okay, if you could lower your hands. Anyone abstaining? Representative Merritt, sorry, I told you I'd do this all the time. Anyone else abstaining? Okay, then that passes 28 to 2 to 1. Thank you all so much for coming out for your to voice your favor of this, being in favor of this. Okay, we are moving on. Liaison reports. Are there any liaison reports tonight? I do have one. Do you want to give it quickly? Yeah, Representative Bright, I have one from you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Yeah. The Citizen and Police Committee held a meeting on 8 May 2023 at the Groton Town Police Department. Meeting called to order at 5:05 p.m. Committee members present were Chair Dela Cruz, Parfit, Velez, and Groton Town Police Chief Asaro. Others present were Councilors Cassiri and Franco, Groton Town Manager Burt, Groton Town Deputy Police Chief Gately, and Lorena Clark. Let's see, approval of the 13 March 2023 meeting minutes were postponed till the next meeting. There were a couple of communications received by the committee. Member Parfait received a communication concerning the outreach programs, and Chief Fasaro received a communication from the Department of Justice about the award Officer McClellan will receive from the Department of Justice, which is pretty awesome. There was no old business. Under new business, the new Public Safety Community Outreach Specialist, Lorena Clark, gave a presentation which included her background and personal history, as well as the types of cases she handles, which are numerous. From 1 April 2022 through 31 December 2022, she handled 107 cases. She had some handouts, which included the call type, shift summary, date closed, and case details of the 107 cases she actually handled. And in her breakdown, approximately 21 of the 107 cases were domestic in nature. She had a breakdown, the different types. And under other business open forum, a discussion was held on the two recent local facilities, which I'm sure everyone has read about them, and the reasons for most types of these facilities, the usual ones: speed, distracted driving, DUIs. And then traffic enforcement, Chief Fasaro said traffic enforcement by GTPD will be increased in the future to try and reduce the number of speeders, distracted drivers, and DUIs. And he also mentioned that the GTPD awards ceremony will be held on 12 May 2023 at 10:30 a.m. in the Town Hall Annex in Groton. And that's to present a bunch of awards to the Groton Town Police Department officers. And RSVP is requested by 11 May 2023 to J. Vislowski at groton-ct.gov. The next meeting will be on 11 September 2023, and the meeting was adjourned at 6:24 p.m.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, are there any other liaison reports? Seeing none. The next item on our agenda is budget discussions, but we're moving into the budget, so I think we're gonna probably hold off on that. Any other business from anyone? Seeing no hands, I will take a motion to adjourn the regular meeting. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Okay, then we are moving on. It was motion made by Representative Sean Powers, seconded by Representative Norman. Thank you. Okay, and we are resuming our R.T.M. budget meeting. It is Wednesday, May 10th. It is 7:42. First item on the agenda is CIP 7L. We've already listened to the minutes. We are on page 242. We'll get there and we will. Who's here to speak on this one? Okay. So, the let me put it up. What the number was on the floor to confirm that, and who put the number on?
The minutes from,
We are
I don't know about others, but I'm having trouble hearing you, moderator.
I wasn't on, I'm sorry, I wasn't on a microphone. The number on the floor was $125,000. I just want to confirm that there wasn't any other number on the floor. 125,000? Okay. Okay. So we had asked a number of questions to Director Reiner, and so we tabled this motion, or we tabled the motion until today. So Director Reiner, if you would like to speak. I think he's on there.
Yes, John Reiner, Director of Planning and Development. I believe Brian Hancock is on the line also, and he had indicated that we do have hard servers, but we also do.
I just lost you.
That was my mistake, sorry.
Hold on. Your boss just muted
I
you.
can actually. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, Brian, do you want to jump in?
Yeah. The questions that were presented to me was we are currently planning to do an on-prem storage for this system. We are going to be using our tape backups that we currently have in-house. We do incrementals daily with a full backup every Friday. Cloud backups are on the schedule for this, daily backups and incrementals for those for the life of the project and beyond. We currently have the town clerks, surveys, maps, etc. on a network, which we plan to set up the same way. We've had those on here for many, many years. Currently, we're sitting at about 10,500 files that they have access to. And that's about it. Any other questions?
Representative Sir.
Yes, I had, oh, is it my turn?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Just for the record, I am, hold on 1 second, Representative Surf, I just want to make this clarifying. So I have people who already spoke last time. I am going to allow them to speak because there were questions that couldn't be answered last time. But if you have already spoken twice before, which is only actually Representative Surf, I'm going to allow you one more time to speak tonight. And then if you've spoken, if you haven't spoken twice before, we'll allow you to speak regularly. Representative Surf.
Okay, so Brian, my question is, when you speak about the cloud, is it your own cloud? Or is it a commercial cloud like from Amazon or Google or one of those?
It's the backups we use is a commercial cloud, Azure backups for us. That's what we contract with.
That's the Microsoft cloud, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So that's on their servers?
Yes.
And automatically anything that you back up to their cloud, they will back up also, most likely. So there's a double backup there and using an external cloud server. Okay, that's excellent.
Yeah, multiple data centers.
Yeah, that was my main concern, is that we were nicely distributed everywhere. Okay, you've answered my questions, and as usual, you're doing a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Representative Norman.
Hi. Just to confirm, I heard you say this is a hard server, so we will be purchasing hardware, or we'll be using the town clerk's existing hardware and like continuing to draw upon that server? How is this working, and why is a on-site server necessary and not just cloud?
Well, we looked at it both ways, and we decided an on-prem would work better for us. It would be a one-time purchase for the storage units, the power store units that we will just add to our current storage capacity with probably a 3 to a 5 year warranty on that hardware, so there'd be no reoccurring charges. With the cloud-based product, we would incur a monthly bill for the cloud storage and the monthly bill for backing that software up. And truthfully, I don't know how large all these maps are going to be up there. I know I've been in the vault, it's pretty extensive, so.
And I know we just had, sorry, this is still Representative Norman. I know that we just had a different, in a budget piece, replacements of servers, maintenance. Are you saying that these new servers we're purchasing aren't going to require that maintenance, that replacement? You said a 3 to 5 year warranty. So does that mean we're purchasing new ones in 3 to 5 years?
We recycle our systems probably 5 to 7 years. So these units would be in production for up to 7 years, maybe plus.
And then that would also, Brian, give you a better understanding of how much the total file sizes are of all these, how much memory is actually needed once they're all scanned. So a new decision could be made if needed at the time, is that right?
That is correct.
But you'll have already purchased the hardware, right? Like versus cloud computing where you can expand your package and negotiate for more space in a much more flexible way rather than having to buy additional cores for an on-site.
I think the on-prem would work, especially for the gearing up of this program. I know there's some long-term, like I said, a lot of maps being thrown in there. I would probably have to say, in the 5 to 6 year range when the hardware is scheduled to be replaced or in the replacement schedule, I think a decision could be made there to throw the files up to cloud if it was deemed that we would want to do it at that time.
I'll just end my.
So the hardware wouldn't go to waste.
Here's what I'll say. I will vote for this because I'm in support of this. Prior to until a year ago, I was a chief data officer for New York City, and we moved to the cloud because it was cheaper with a ton of data, a ton of maps, and I just have to believe for Groton, we want to save every penny we can and not be doing all of this. So I will vote for this because I think digitizing is good. 5 to 7 years, I really hope, I don't want to see more hardware because we want to come into the present with this. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Any other questions or concerns? Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I have a question for Mr. Reiner. Once all of these documents are digitized, what is going to happen to the actual paper documents?
So some of the documents, we will reach out to the state to see which of those can be destroyed, if any, and others can be put into long-term storage.
Okay, so every document has to be approved or disapproved by the state?
Essentially, the types of documents that we want to destroy, we do have to get approval from the state on them. Depending on if it's a memo to a file, if it's a permanent record, there's certain criteria that we have to go through depending on the types of documents.
Okay, this is just what would your estimate be as to the percentage of documents that will be retained in paper form?
I don't know at this time until we get into the project and we see what is in each file that constitutes the permanent record that the state requires to keep.
Okay. Director Reiner, on that question, can you discuss the advantages of having this on the cloud and being digitized? What is the advantage for the residents of Groton?
So then all of our documents that are in file cabinets now, on the first floor, or things that are in long-term storage buried in the basement, it won't take, all people will have to do is keyword search. It'll be there, search by the PIN number or by the property address. They'll be able to access it, the general public, out on the web at any point in time. Items that are public record, but now take a substantial amount of time to go pull files, find the appropriate documents. That'll be at people's fingertips for them to be able to do at their own convenience from the comfort of their home, right now, there's things that you can search. You know, some of our plans, some of our special projects we put up on the website, but we want to make this that easy.
Thank you. Representative Cerf, you've actually spoken already 3 times on this subject, so I'm going to ask you to lower your hand. Are there any other questions? Are we ready to vote? Okay. All those in favor of $125,000 for CIP 7L, please raise your hand.
Madam Moderator, I just have a point of information here. I can hear
Representative
all the
Cerf, we
people
are
who are
in
online extremely clearly, and I can barely hear the people who are in the room.
Okay, we will do our best to
Last
get
time
Representative
was
Cerf.
much
We are in the
better.
middle of a vote. Can we hold this for just 1 more minute, please? Okay, if everyone could put their hand down, please. Sean, did you hear that? If you can lower your hand, please. Representative Scott, if you could lower your hand, please, we're going to...
Madam Moderator, I was supposed to be a yes vote.
Okay,
I couldn't
thank
get
you.
my computer to work fast enough.
Thank you. All those opposed, please raise their hand. None. Anyone abstaining? Representative Gardner? Okay, then that motion passes 31, or is it 30? I'm sorry, 30 to 0 to 1. Thank you very much. Okay, next up. I'm sorry, Representative Cerf, you had a concern with the audio?
Yes vote.
You were a yes vote. Okay, thank you. We got you as a yes vote. Can you hear me?
Okay, then are we finished voting, or you finish? You got to finish that first, right?
We are finished voting. Can you hear me speak?
I can hear you, but I couldn't hear anybody speaking from the floor.
Okay.
I assumed that the person who was asking questions was Representative Norman, simply because I heard enough that I assumed it was her asking the questions from Brian, but I couldn't hear specifically what she was asking. And it was the same with the previous speaker.
Okay.
Whoever's on the floor, I'm not hearing. It's all kind of blurry. I don't know about everybody else. Maybe it's just me.
To the rest of the representatives,
of you
sorry, hold on. Representative Cerf, can you hold 1 second? To the other representatives online, can you hear what is going on, either what I am saying or what is going on the floor? I'm getting a yes from Representative Massett, hand up from Representative Amboise.
You are very garbled. I can barely hear you, and I would agree the sound is very bad.
You can't hear
It was
me.
much better last time. I
Are
don't know
you
what
on-
you did last time, but last time was perfect.
Okay, Representative Cerf, I need you to please hold your comments for just 1 minute. Representative Eben, are you able to hear me?
Now I am, but there's like a little echo, and sometimes you do walk away from the mic, and then it's impossible to hear.
You're right. When I walk away from the mic, it is impossible. I'm sorry. And I will work on that. Everybody else is doing okay with hearing me, and I will ask everyone who has a microphone in the audience to please speak very directly into your microphone. Next up tonight.
Madam Moderator, on my end, I just have to turn the volume up on my computer, and I can usually hear, but it is important that people use the microphone to the best of their ability.
Thank you. Okay. Representative Cerf, if you can put your hand down, we are going to move to the next item. We are on to item 1080, the education budget, which is on page 166.
Good, okay. Thank you. The R.T.M. Education Committee met on Tuesday, April 25th, 2003, at 6 p.m., and it's in Drive 55 in a classroom. The meeting was called to order at 6:13 p.m. Roll call, Representatives Chase, Gibson, Gustafson, McElroy, and Whitney present. Representative Frickman and VZ Williams absent. We had quorum with 4 of 7 members present. Also in attendance, Superintendent Austin, Board of Education Chair Watson, other Groton Public School administrators and staff, and Board of Education members. For our new business, the first item was 3.1, so this is 2023-263, R.T.M. Education Committee Review FYE 2024 Proposed Town Budget. The account 1080, Education, that's on page 167, but we also have the Board of Education book for that. Original motion made by Representative Gustafson to recommend $81,510,627 for account 1080. That was seconded by Representative Whitney. The rationale for this motion, this is the amount passed by the Town Council. We had a first amended motion by Representative Chase to recommend $79,157,271. That was seconded by Representative Gibbs. The rationale, this is the amount passed last year. It would reduce the overall town budget and help taxpayers. The first amended motion failed, 2 in favor, 3 opposed, and no abstentions. Representatives Chase and Gibson in favor, Representatives Gustafson, McElroy, and Whitney opposed. The original motion passed, 3 in favor, 2 opposed, and no abstentions. Representatives Gustafson, McElroy, and Whitney in favor, Representatives Chase and Gibson opposed. The discussion covered a wide range of questions and comments from the committee members and answers and information from the superintendent, Groton Public Schools staff, and Board of Education members. Topics included increases in the transportation budget, minimum budget requirements, alliance districts, which the town will remain in for at least the next 5 years, funding sources, including federal impact aid, Department of Defense, or DOD, supplemental funds, and ARP ESSER funds. I had it as ARC ESSER, but it's ARP ESSER funds. Reduction of 4 full-time equivalent, or FTE, positions at Fitch, and incorporation of ARP ESSER funded positions into the regular budget. Contractual salary and benefit increases, health reserve funds, and other topics were discussed. So I will move the committee recommended number for account 1080 education, $81,510,627.
Thank you. Motion made by Chair Whitney, seconded by Representative Kopp. We do have Board of Ed Chair Kim Shepherdson-Watson here, as well as Superintendent Susan Austin, as well as a whole lot of other people. I will let you guys come on up. Representative Amboise, we are going to get a really short presentation from the Board of Ed, and then we will move with questions.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. Make sure that I speak into the mic. So good evening. My name is Kim Shepherdson-Watson, and I have the honor and privilege of being the chairperson of the Groton Board of Education. On my left is the Superintendent Susan Austin, and my goodness, on my left is Superintendent Austin, and on my right is Sam Kilpatrick, who is the Director of Grounds. We have Clint Kennedy in the back, and he is the Director of our Technology Services. And we also have our Assistant Superintendent, Phil Piazza, here as well. And we also have a group of incredible, dedicated people who are sitting in our back, who represent our district staff, both our teachers and support staff. So I thank them very much. And we also have, I think, an administrator here as well. So I would like to recognize them. I also have, we also have a few of our board members. I know that Rita Volkman, and I also know that Jay Wheatloff is on as well as Board of Education members. I would like to say first thank you to Chairperson Mike Whitney for hosting us in a meeting and a great discussion about the Board of Education meeting. As I'm going into this PowerPoint, I do have to sort of speak to Monday's Board of Ed meeting. I don't know how much people pay attention to really the politics around this reading program throughout the country. But in April, in March, we had several parents come to us and talk to us with their concerns about our K-3 reading program. Obviously, not obviously, but through the pandemic, people have been really concerned about the lag in scores across the nation because of how we were needing to teach our students and keep both our students, our families, and staff safe. The board and I were completely moved by the dedication and enthusiasm that teachers and our literacy specialists came in to talk about with full knowledge of all the reading programs that exist for our students in the K-3 program. I'm going to take Rita Volkman's a comment around the fact that she was just so excited that as a board member to realize that our 5 elementary schools are all doing the same approaches for our K-3. And this is largely because we have a town who supports our budget, supports our board, and that can support our central office staff to then give what our teachers need to do the job and to do their craft that they're doing. So it was an incredible moving meeting. It was really very inspirational, and it really made me proud to be able to work so hard for the district. Also, as I go into this, I just want to let you know, in our April regular board meeting, our director of finance, who I also believe is on board on Zoom, gave us our object code summary, and to that date, what we have left is $34,000. And that was so for those people who might believe that we fluff a budget, to say that we are in April and we are working with a 34 in surplus is a pretty good thing. Let's move on. As always, we have a mission statement, which is of teaching and learning. I would love for you to pay attention to those incredible, if you can see, maybe not. It's a good seal.
Is there a way to forward this?
The clip. It's not working. Thank you, Sean. But we have the mission statement, which is of teaching and learning. Our goal is to provide dynamic, rigorous curriculum to ensure effective and engaging instruction, to embrace excellent learning environments. And we have the belief statement of cultivate an environment of diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. Our next, some slides are, I don't know if they can get changed, but we want to highlight what our program highlights are. And I just talked about our K-3 reading program. We have increased rigor and relevance with our math instruction, and it goes with our Connecticut core standards. We have amplified our curriculum K-12, which meets the needs of and the standards of the next generation science. And we've continued to expand our International Baccalaureate program which is currently at the high school and Groton Middle School. And oh, by the way, that was the support of the town to make sure that we have a campus for our Fitch High School and our middle school. And through that, we have in our IB, we have the middle years program, we have a diploma program, and careers program and pathways. We have continued to explore partnerships with Grasso Tech, so that we can have more after-school opportunities for both our students and also for our students, for Grasso Tech students to get some of the good stuff that we have at Fitch. We have all of our elementary schools have our magnet, and that was in the completion of our new buildings. And that was also part of the reason to do the magnet schools was also to meet the criteria for the Connecticut Department of State Education for our equity and diversity. And that we also have continued to do our curricular and extracurricular activities. And we have this one-to-one computer initiative that gets supported in this budget. And we provide a secondary transition for students who are 18 to 22, and that's under our IDEA grant. And we have our Treehouse, which has both after-school, before and after-school and summer program, and that through the town we have our police officers that work with our staff in our buildings of the Groton Middle School and our high school. So when we take a look at our town revenues, there's that pie chart that we just always love to show, and it kind of shows where some of the different things come from in terms of helping to support our budget. Yep, 50 million has come from the town. We have the educational cost sharing, which is about 30%. We have the federal impact aid, which is 5%, and down the road. So, but you can see the larger proportion of our budget does come from the town revenues. What I have come to understand and know about Board of Ed budgets is that there's just certain categories that we have. And so when you take a look at what our Groton Public Schools budget category is, you can see the largest part of our pile is our treasured gifts, and that is our staff. And that is what helps and just provides this excellent educational experience in this district. And so that's 68% of his salaries and benefits. And you can see 76.8% is salary and benefits. Yep, sorry, I don't know how to speak. And so that, once again, just trying to put in line to help us sort of do our budget. So the next slide that I'm going to show you is our budget process, for those who don't know, is by charter. We have to have a budget that goes to the town manager by February 28th. Starting the first Monday in January, the Board of Education works with the superintendent on her budget. And look for ways of enhancing the budget, or asking what does she really need in order to do that, and asking for her to take a look at what she has proposed. And Susan actually starts her budget in late summer, early fall, to make sure that we can get it in January. And so just to let you know, on this slide, it really shows our budget has to have these criteria, which is salaries, benefits, purchase services, transportation, supplies, and equipment. As I don't know if you can see, but on the top, her budget came in at a 4.98, and with our working together, we were able to kind of come down, and our budget is representing from last year's is a 2.97% increase from last year, but we were able to bring the budget down from the 4.98. And some of the drivers for that is probably something that's pretty similar for many people and many budgets is we are being hit by inflation. We were locked in with our fuel, but in some of the ways we were not. And so we've had inflation has hit that. We've also were able to negotiate a new bus contract for 5 years. And 3 to 5. With the last 2 years is if that's what if it meets the needs of both of them, both of us and the current bus company. But that was an increase. We are currently in negotiations with our paraprofessionals and working. And once again, we're just starting that, so I don't really have anything that I can report on. But I also just want the town to know that it both benefits the union, but it also benefits the Groton Public Schools, is that we have moved from a 3-year contract for most of our contracts to a 4-year, and that is to help with some cost savings for us. This takes a look or walks you through sort of where you can see the percentages, and I'm just going to I'm not going to necessarily walk you through, because if you guys have questions, I'm going to make sure that Susan and Ken do that. I just wanted to once again give you the overlay of what this is. I am going to just step back for 1 second. Can you go back to the adjusted budget for just a second? Ken, I hope you're on, because I'm going to poorly attempt to explain the corridor. One of the ways that we got to the 2.97 is that we do have the corridor for our health insurance, and we were able to take monies out. We've been assured by both our Lori Lapine, and so it says the reduction in health insurance reserve. We did not bottom that out. That had happened to us several years ago, where we didn't have enough money, and we had to come back to the town to ask us to help us with that. But we did get the budget down with using some of the reduction from that health insurance. I think. Yeah. So just to kind of just continue to remind all of us is that if you took a look at our 7-year average, we have only had an increase of 0.5%. We've had several years where we have sustained a level 0% budget. I do understand that this is hard times for most people, but I think that the board, and specifically for me, is that we feel that we are presenting a level service budget. It meets, we are being good stewards of the money that has been, that we are using for the district. Once again, if I could remind you about my comment about our object code summary, and we were $34,000 for the rest of the year. That has not been dedicated to something. So I feel like we've been working pretty hard on that. And I know one of the things, do you want to just go to the capital? So I know that this is not the time, but I wanted to touch on, there's several things that the board put on that were zeroed out, and a lot of them had to do with the athletic fields, or the field house, and there's another one, and bleachers, and we put them on because we do know that it's part of the project of the Fields Committee in terms of their phases. The board would just like to help the Field Committee and help the town move more towards a referendum for that, so that we can have the attention that's necessary for those facilities. Last year, the Board of Ed did pay for a study on the field house, so that is there, and we have some rough numbers around for the bleachers. The other one that I would love to call us attention to is our culinary arts room. That was also zeroed out. We did have a study. Once again, we did pay for that. and that comes in roughly about $600,000. And I did meet with the mayor to see if we could actually get some RTM, Town Council, and Board of Ed members to kind of take a look if there's a way that we could find funding so that we can make this happen. Because once again, we do have a lot of, we have had lots of competitive grants, and one of the competitive grants that we have is our career one, and our culinary arts program is a very well sought out program, and we just don't have a great room to do that, and so we would love to see if we could move forward on that. Once again, thank you for your support. The district is excited about how much the town really embraces and understands how amazing of the people who work in the district and how much they make us Groton proud.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, if we can take this off, then I can see everybody, and then we can open up the floor for discussion. Okay.
I'm sorry, Moderator Russ, were you recognizing me?
Not quite yet, but you are first on the list, so go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Under provisions of the Town Charter 3.5.3 and the RTM rules 8.1, I'm declaring that my wonderful wife and mother of two is a employee of the Groton Board of Education. And I fully support this budget on the floor. I'd like to thank Chairwoman Watson for her service to the community as well. And with that, I yield.
Thank you. Representative Casper.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I note that the budget is increasing by over about 2.4 million from last year. And I also note that the town of Groton's portion is 57%. But of the increase in the budget, we're paying 2.3, or approximately 96% of the increase falls on the taxpayers of Groton, not to the state or federal or any grants. Can someone talk to that?
One of the things that we have really been working very hard is, one of the things we do really well and we work really hard at is making sure that our parents sign up for impact aid. That's one of our revenue sources, so we try to get as much. That funding source is up over $4 million. There were years, in about 10 years, that we were estimating it to be like 3 million, but it was coming in at 4 or more %. So there have been monies that have come to the district additionally in the sense of revenue. So, you know, the revenue kind of stays pretty stationary. The 25 million that we've been receiving from the state, because we're an alliance district, and we will be for the next 5 years, that also is secure for us, which is a good thing. There are many districts that have lost funding. So, you know, it is something that we're always considering and making sure that we are receiving as much revenue as possible. We also go after a lot of competitive and categorical grants that add and supplement our budget. And much of that is done for professional development. As far as the portion that the taxpayers are responsible for, it is a $30 million, $50 million split. So the townspeople do pay more than the revenue source coming in. I see Ken Knight, and he has done some work and actually had done a chart at one time. So Ken, if you can get on to talk about what is really the increased responsibility for the taxpayer.
Sure. Hi. This is Ken Knight, Business Manager for the Board of Ed. You can hear me, right?
Yes, very well.
Okay, good. All right, very good, thank you. So, yeah, we did do an analysis of the increase to the town taxpayers based upon this 2.97% increase that we're talking about. And we're calculating that it's an increase of 4.8% in what the taxpayers would pay. That is dependent upon the revenues coming in at what we estimated. We have historically been, we somewhat underestimate, for instance, the impact aid amount we estimated for this year at 4.1 million, and so far through yesterday, we had gotten 4.2 million. So there are opportunities for reducing the amount that the taxpayers have to pay.
Representative Eben.
Thank you. I just have a point of information, which is that Representative Thomas left the meeting at 7:50 and did not vote in the last CIP.
Thank you.
You wanted me to,
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'd like to move another number.
Okay.
$79,157,271, which I believe is last year's number.
Second, Adams.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the number, please?
$79,157,271.
Okay, that motion was made by Representative Scott, seconded by Representative Adams. Could you please speak to, or do you want to speak to your motion?
I do. I'm just looking at all of the numbers and being thoughtful of the tax burden that's being borne by the homeowners. This is not a budget year like last year where we can rely on the businesses to help cover our tax burdens. It's going to be burdened by people who own homes, condos, people who own cars here in the town of Groton. In 2 years' time, the budget has gone up over $4 million. It went up 1.7 million last year, and this year it's going up 2.3. I think it's important to remember that this is a budget that can never be cut. So if we approve the $81 million budget tonight, next year it's at least $81 million, and whatever they increase it next year, it's going to be that number. It never can go down. I feel that this is not the year for a large increase. And that a $79 million number, which is last year's number, is an appropriate thing to do. And I'll reserve for additional comments later. Thank you.
Representative Norman.
Hi. You know, as a homeowner, if that's where the burden is going to be, I say I do not support this new number. I look with dismay every year over year at our increasing gap in expenditure per pupil between the state average and what is happening in Groton. As a homeowner who we are going to see all of these new jobs coming into our town over the next 5 to 10 years, I want people to choose to live here. And why they would choose to live here is that we are investing in our future and our students and our children. And so to do that, we need to actually fund our schools. People are not going to choose to live here. My home values will not continue to increase if we don't actually have good schools. Home values are incredibly tied to good schools, right? My same home in Old Saybrook or Old Lyme would be worth a lot more because they invest in their schools. And I think we need to do the same.
Thank you. Representative Massett. You're muted.
Okay. Just a point of clarification, possibly from Superintendent Austin, to say that once the budget is at a certain number, it will never go down. There are scenarios where you can reduce the budget. I think it has to do with the number of students.
Yes, that's correct.
So
Okay,
can you
thank
speak
you.
to that? Could you speak to that, please?
Well, yes, that could vary depending on the number of students, and I work very closely with the legislators, our local legislators, and try to keep up with all the current legislation. You also need to know that a lot of the drivers of a budget have to do with what we call unfunded mandates. For instance, the reading legislation mandated that we purchase a basal program, one of 6, that about 150 districts out of the 169 refused to purchase because they aren't good. And that would cost the state about $750 million to do something like that. Every district would be paying $600,000 just to fill the classroom with something that is not worthy of our children, that our children deserve better. So that's just one, for instance, of an unfunded mandate. There are many, many more. So we're constantly, and CABE, our Board of Ed, is very astute. They belong to an organization of Connecticut Association of Boards, and they really keep up with the legislation that's coming through, because oftentimes, while it might be well-meaning and there's good intentions, and we certainly want all kids to read, that's kind of what's behind the legislation, hence all the work that my teachers and my literacy specialists have been doing. But these mandates then cause towns to have to pay additional funds for things that they might not need or want. So we are trying to be very present to that kind of work. And I work with CAPS, the Connecticut Association of School Superintendents. I meet with the regional ones on a monthly basis, and we constantly have people from the state of Connecticut and legislators who come and kind of give us a briefing on what is going through. And we're trying to pay as close attention so we safeguard our community from having to spend money on something that wouldn't be needed. So I just have that to say.
Thank you. Representative Cerf. Representative Cerf.
Let me unmute, yes. First of all, Chairperson Watson, I want to thank you for I think you're speaking rather close to your mic, right? So that we can hear you? And you're the only person on the, yeah, you're the only person on the floor so far that I have heard clearly. So if everyone else, if you could speak close to your microphones, it would give us here online a better chance. Now, I have 2 questions. One is about the Northeast Academy, which is a fairly new school. And I don't know, I might not have heard you because the acoustics are not great today. But why suddenly do we have a $1 million problem with air quality? And my second question is, given that you received an awful lot of the ARPA funding to pay people extra and to do extra things with your in the schools this year, would it really not be possible for us to have a 0-level budget increase? Because I'm with Representative Scott here. Because we did not have a phase-in of the revaluation last year, which we should have done, the residents of the town are taking at least a 10 or 20% bigger hit and having to pay the taxes. And so we're not getting any help from business. And the taxes already, in addition to the property revaluation, have been really killing a lot of people. I hear that from all my constituents. They're ready to move out. They don't know what to do. And so, though I know you're doing a fantastic job in the schools, I'm really hoping that maybe in this particular case, you could help us out and try to keep the budget at a 0-level increase.
So,
thank you.
Before we move forward, Representative Cerf, the Northeast Academy Air Quality is a CIP, so it does not fall directly under this budget, so it's inappropriate at this time. It is a 0 budget or 0 line item this year, correct? So it won't even be discussed tonight. If you want to address the other question.
So thank you for that question. I'd like to say that it is a process, and when we first roll out a budget, this was really a budget that was very similar to last year. There weren't additions, but there are expenses when it comes to contractual agreements that we make with the people who are really what we give our kids in school today. They're teachers, they're paraprofessionals, the custodians, the secretaries, all those good people who work with our children every day, and a central office that supports them. So it really is, you know, kind of a flat budget in that way, but expenses have gone up, contracts have gone up. To come in with a personnel upgrade of 2.4% is very reasonable in this day and age when you hear some contracts going up much more than that during inflationary times. To look at things like electricity and heat, I know that I felt it even in my small home, the increases. So those increases are things that we're sustaining in the schools and we have to pay for. We can't shut off the heat. So those things that we've rolled out are things we absolutely need. And I would say that our board was due diligent in going through line by line by line, every single thing that they could possibly do. So we do have, through our contracts, our teacher contracts, through our board, really ideal number of students from 20 to 24. Some classrooms can't take more than 24. That's what we were looking at, class size too, and the number of FTEs we would need or number of teachers we would need. If you cut 2.2 million from this budget, there would be class sizes of 30 to 40, and we just couldn't fit the kids into the classrooms without the teachers. So we do need our teachers, we do need our paraprofessionals. We have our children in special ed have a legally binding document called an IEP, Individualized Education Plan, that has a paraprofessional oftentimes in that plan to help support that child, access the curriculum. So there are many things by law I need to include in my budget, and that's what I've done. And the board...
Yes, could you answer the question about the Northeast Academy?
No,
Air
ma'am.
quality problem?
Representative Cerf, that is not part of this budget. It is a CIP that is actually zeroed out this year. So the air
I
quality.
thought you had it on one of your slides. Didn't you have it on your slide?
It was zero for now.
It's zero.
Right. We've been able to fix that problem at this point, but we are keeping our eye open to make and working on that on a regular basis. The Northeast Academy was actually built on wetlands, so there is some, you know, we have to keep on top of that.
Well, thank you for being honest about that. Most people don't want to admit that we're building on wetlands all the time, so I appreciate your clarity there. But it's really not a good idea in the future.
Representative Cerf.
Thank you.
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I've got a couple of questions. The first question I have, I saw in the presentation, I think it was in your talking about your value system. You talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Can you dive into that a little bit deeper and tell me if there's any costs associated with having that kind of program in your school?
The board had, when they adopted that vision statement, they actually set aside in the operation budget $15,000, and it includes a coordinator, it includes books that staff are reading, it includes, just really very few things, but mostly we do some professional learning so that we can be culturally responsive in the classroom. We do have a very diverse community, as you know. 51% of my students are free and reduced lunch. 51% of my students are children of color. We have a lot of students who are EL, English language learners. So we really want to make sure that everybody feels a sense of belonging.
Representative.
Thank you for that. Do you keep a running tally of the cost of the unfunded mandates that are forced upon you by the legislature and how that impacts our budget?
I should. I actually, we actually do review some of those on a yearly basis. There's so many right now, Representative Scott, that it's really been hard to keep up with. That's actually one of the meetings I'm going to go to on Friday. So we try very hard, and our local representatives are very good about keeping me abreast of those too.
I think that would be helpful. Having served in the legislature myself, I fought against unfunded mandates, and I would love to know what the impact is that we're bearing as taxpayers here in the town of Groton. So if you could generate a list and associated costs, I think that would be helpful for future budget discussions.
Thank you. I will do that.
Thank you. My last question, you have to have had anticipated that someone was going to motion last year's number. It happens every year. Do you have a spreadsheet of kind of like what happens if somebody makes a motion for last year's number?
I would say that our board was so due diligent, we went through every possibility and it's already been done. So, I mean, the only thing that, I'm sorry?
That wasn't answering.
That's not really answering my question, though. I mean, I know you guys did a lot of work to figure out the number you got now, but is there a what if? What if somebody motioned last year's number? What's the impact? Do you have a list of what the impact is?
The impact is 75% of my budget is the people who serve the children. And, supplies are down. I mean, even though the cost of supplies are up, our site budgets are only 1% additional, even though the rate of inflation, it costs much more to buy paper, pencils, crayons, but we'll have to buy less of that. So we've already tackled all those things that are tangible. So now it's really the people that would be affected. And I do not want that to happen.
Okay. So the answer is really that you don't have a document or anything at this point to tell us if we pass that number tonight, what specifically would be the impact to the Board of Ed?
No, we've already made that document. I think we showcased that, what the board did in the process to get it down from what I called a level budget in the rollout, under 5%. So we've cut back. We've even used as much of the health savings account as we could possibly use.
Okay. If we were to ask you to put together a statement like that, how long would it take you to do it?
I wouldn't venture to guess. I don't know.
I feel like that's a piece of information that we should have before we vote on any of these numbers tonight. I'm inclined to move to set this aside to the next meeting until we can have a better answer to that question. Matter of fact, absent that information, I think I will make that motion to set this aside for the next meeting, see if we can get a better impact statement.
Is there a second?
Bailey, second.
Okay. Representative Massett.
It sounds to me as though the question that Representative Scott just asked has been answered. And if what I heard was that it would impact the level of staffing, which would impact the teaching of our students. If I am misreading that, please feel free to correct me.
That's exactly the point. The impact could not be sustained.
Representative Gustafson. Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Gustafson? I'm sorry, we're not hearing you.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
A little better, but if you could speak really, really loudly into your microphone, because we're not hearing you well.
Could it be this microphone?
Okay. No, I was going to agree with Representative Massett. I believe the superintendent spoke earlier that, cutting that funding would increase class size to a not very good level. I mean, you don't it's hard to teach and learn if you have a class size over a certain number, 24 or so. Isn't that correct?
That's correct, and there are contracts that would not allow that to happen. And there's, you know, the board has really recognized the right solution in the right class size. And our classrooms, even though we have new schools, and even our new wing of Fitch, it doesn't hold more than 24. There's state legislation that says no more than 24 in any of the science classes, for instance. So we just can't do it. And we wouldn't want to do it.
Representative Kopp.
Yes, thanks for coming out here tonight. If it were up to me, which I can't do, I would double this budget. I very much support the education of our children. It's getting better and better in this town. I think you've done a wonderful job. My hat is off to every teacher and administrator, and I understand that we all have a right to ask questions, and we should be totally respectful of that, but I do believe that the question has been asked and answered by the superintendent, and I think we need to think very carefully about where we do cut in here, because there are some very large parts of this budget where if we look at on an average FTE salary, the education does not come anywhere near some of our other items in this budget. I have specifics to that, but I don't think I'll need to speak to them right now. So I support this the second, not the number, the 79, and not setting aside. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Scott.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Thought I was on mute. I'm hearing kind of generalities. We're going to have to cut teachers. How many we don't know. We're going to have how many children in the classroom, maybe 50, maybe 40. I'm not hearing specifics, and that's why I'm asking for more details. You know, how many teachers really are going to get cut? How many children are really, if we do this, how many children are going to be in a classroom? I want to see the specifics. I think I'm entitled to see that, and that's why I've asked for this.
So I'll tell you that $2.2 million divided by the average teacher's salary of $64,000, we can do the math and figure out how many and how that would generate class sizes that would increase above any contractual agreement, any ethical decision for our children.
Point of
Point
of information, that would be 34 teachers.
Was that heard? It would be 34 teachers, according to Representative Norman. Yes? Yeah. Representative Gauthier?
I'm sorry, what was that number again? We didn't hear it.
She said 34 teachers. Representative Gauthier.
Thank you. So looking at I think this helps add some context into the $81.5 million budget. If we look at the financing plan from the general fund, roughly a little bit more than half of that is actually coming out of the general fund itself. The rest is paid for by federal funds. I'm seeing a huge amount coming from a special education fund. Is my understanding what I'm looking at correct, Superintendent?
Yes.
So out of the general fund, out of the taxpayer like Groton taxpayer dollars, looks like approximately $46.7 million is really what we're talking about. So a big number up on the board. Understand there's other money besides what's coming into the general fund, and we're not a revenue body, but understanding that while we're approving 81.5, that's not necessarily 81.5 out of the general fund, because we have to pretty much approve pass-throughs of all this other education funding. I mean, it's not going to be spent anywhere else in this budget. The federal funds that the school district receives like I said, from the federal government, from the state, that's more of a pass-through, but it all, I don't know how else to explain it. 46.7 is what the town is contributing to this budget, essentially. The rest is coming to the town and then being specifically allocated for a specific function and could not be used anywhere else. That's just my point for fellow committee members to consider.
Representative Whitney.
Thank you. Just some higher level numbers first on the page 1 of our budget. That's the town manager's letter. It divides the whole budget into 6 categories. And if you look at those numbers, there's 6 categories. Contingency is flat, so that's 0%. The next lowest is education services, 3%. Then we could look at, after that, capital debt services, 4.6%. Let's see, subdivisions, that includes City of Groton, Groton Long Point, 5.1% increase. Other agencies, 6.4%. Town operations, 7.2%. So education, in terms of the increase, is percent
Madam
increase.
Moderator, point of order, please.
What's your point of order?
With all due respect, the motion on the floor right now is to set aside this to get this information. I realize all these numbers are significant, but we need to focus on this motion first, and then we can go back to the main motion and the amended, please.
Can you hold that until we get through this? Because I think the point is that there's a lot of other budgets that have much higher percentage increase. Am I correct, Chair Whitney?
Yeah, actually, a point of information. Can you explain the procedure right now? Because we had at 8:41 the move to set aside. I figured we were in that 10-minute window to continue, but maybe not.
Actually, the 10-minute window I did look up. It is,
Yeah.
if we make a motion to move the motion, if we move the motion, the chair, meaning the moderator, may allow for 10 minutes. It doesn't say must. So there was an error last meeting. We did allow for the 10 minutes, but we don't have to.
That's after we approve that motion or not? I don't. So could you explain where we are right now procedurally?
Right now, the number, or the motion on the floor, thank you, is to set aside this till Monday.
Right.
So,
Oh,
and then we will move up to the numbers. So
Okay.
right now, we are discussing if we should set this aside till Monday.
Yeah, okay, and I'll just be brief. I don't think we should set it aside. The level of information, it's quite clear with not raising it by the anticipated $2.3 million, which I included in my numbers. That would be a cut to a significant reduction in the planned amount of people and services. And so, as you've heard, it's in the double digits for teachers and staff. And we've not required this level of information for any other agency where we were zeroing it out.
That's true.
I think that was asked maybe of public safety, and they said simply that would mean officers. And here we're saying simply it would mean teachers. And so that's enough information, certainly for me to move forward with. Thank you.
Representative Amboise, do you have something on the motion on the floor to set aside till Monday?
Yes, Madam Moderator, I'm not in support of setting this aside. I believe that the Board of Education and the superintendent have provided ample information for us to continue forward. Jobs will be lost, services will suffer, students will be loaded in classrooms, and I cannot support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so seeing no other hands up. Oh, Representative Chase. I thought you said you didn't want to speak to this one.
I don't want to talk about the set aside.
Then let's vote, do that vote first.
Okay.
Do you want to do that? If you are not discussing this, let's do this vote and then we'll move. Okay? Okay. All those, so we are voting on setting this aside till Monday, which is, I don't know what the date is Monday, because.
The 15th. We can't do that.
That the Board of Ed would not be available
On Monday. Okay. So do we want to move it to our next meeting, which would be Thursday?
18th.
The 18th.
No.
Well, that's the other option.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion was to set it aside. Representative Scott did not say Monday. Representative Scott, are you okay with setting aside it until Thursday, the 18th, when the Board of Ed could be here?
That is fine, I am.
And Representative Bailey, are you okay with that friendly amendment to that motion?
Yes, Madam Moderator, thank you.
So, we're not looking.
It's ridiculous. We got all that other stuff to do.
Okay.
Let's just do.
So we are voting on whether or not we are going to set this aside until Thursday, the 18th. All those in favor of setting this aside until Thursday, the 18th, please raise your hand. We have Representative Dean Shinbrot. You're going to want to write these down. Representative Dean Shinbrot, Representative Scott, Representative Bailey, and Representative Surf. Okay, if you can put your hands down, please. If you are opposed to setting this aside until Thursday the 18th, please raise your hands. Okay, if you can put your hands down, please. Okay, if you are abstaining, Representative Gauthier. So that motion fails. 4 to, can someone do the quick math? 4 to 26 to 1. Okay.
Yes, good.
Thank you for giving me easy math, people. It's been a long time. Okay. Are there any comments or questions before we move on 79,157,271? Representative Surf. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I was gonna put another number on, but maybe we can do that after the vote on this number.
Okay, I have Representative Chase who had her hand up.
Thank you, Madam
Could you
Moderator.
remember that if this vote fails,
Yes.
I'd like to put another number on the board?
Yes. Representative Chase.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. We're in an alliance district for the next 10 years. I heard you say at one of the meetings, correct?
We're for 5 years guaranteed, but then if they graduate you, you're held harmless for the next 5 years.
Okay, so is it also a fact that as long as we're an alliance district, we cannot reduce the budget?
Well, dependent on dependent on our number of students. If we, for instance, didn't have the Columbia-class submarine coming in, which will probably make us a larger district, or if we reduce numbers, that could impact it.
So even if we're an alliance district, we could reduce the budget if the student ratio.
I'd have to double check on that for sure.
Okay,
but-
from what I've heard over the years, that you cannot reduce it. There is, okay. All right, so another perspective on this, if this budget goes up $2 million every year for the next 10 years that we're in an alliance district, we're at $100 million for this budget. And I really don't think that's sustainable, number one.
I don't think that's been proposed at all. I'm just proposing this year's budget. I do one budget
I know,
year
but
at a
it went
time.
up 1.7 this year, 2 point whatever next year. No, it went up 2.22% this year, and it's going up almost 3% for next
After
year.
about 4 zeros in a row, 2 zeros, a little bit, and then 2 more zeros and a negative 34.
I'm just saying this, the taxpayers can't sustain this constant going up. Anyway, neither here nor there. Another perspective is they were talking last night, and I know it's very preliminary, very just beginning of the talks, but they were talking about refurbishing the community center.
You just lost your mic. Okay, go ahead, sorry. You're better.
Refurbishing the community center for $45 million. We're still paying for the schools that we've seen no savings on, that were promised to the taxpayers. How are we going to fix up the rest of this town and maintain the rest of this town when we have all these expenses that keep coming up? It's a rhetorical question, but it's something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before we vote on, Representative Whitney?
Thank you. I was out of order before on those numbers, but the point is that in the 6 main budget categories, education is a 3% increase. For instance, town operations, 7.2. And I know education is a large budget number in terms of dollars, for sure. But the increase for town operations is over 2.8 million, where we're considering hopefully a 2.3 million increase. So both in terms of dollars and percent, the town operations budget is going up quite a bit more than the education services. So I think, it's unrealistic really to expect in the current economy and all the realities of having to be able to educate students and have people employed to do so to have a 0% increase. I'd run the numbers somewhat similar to what Chair Watson presented. And I just did it based on what's on page 167, the bar chart in our budget book, because they have numbers back from a fiscal year 2018, and then it goes up. It's level, and then it goes up and level for 3 years, and it goes up last year, and then if we approve the first number, which I fully support, it'd go up again. So that's just through that. If you average that out, that's a 1.1% increase per year. But of course, it's not average. We zero for a while, it goes up, and it plateaus again. And basically what happens is it goes up because we're playing catch up, right? Where the costs are going up too high, and then we're behind the curve. Here, I don't even know if 3% honestly is keeping with the curve. So I do not support the zero. I support the original number for sure. I did have a question for, I guess, either Chair Watson or the superintendent about the reduction of 4 full-time equivalent positions at Fitch and incorporation of ARP-ESSER funded positions into the regular budget. We discussed that at the meeting. My notes were sort of incomplete on that. I just want to know which positions are being reduced at Fitch, and I think I know how, but you could comment on that. And then which ARP-ESSER positions are being brought into the regular budget and what schools they're at.
So when you have a retirement and a top step teacher does retire, we often replace it with a staff member, a new teacher, at a much lower cost, sometimes within their first 5 years, depending on what the certification needs are. In this budget, we have retirement. At first, it was like 12, and I think we're up to 16. So 4 of those retirements at the high school, we were not going to replace. We had 4 other positions in ARP-ESSER, and one of our astute board members said that this is, we don't want to wait for the cliff. So those are 4 positions that we really do need to continue. 2 of them are district positions, and 2 are middle school. So really in the retirement, they were some of the core areas, ELA, social studies, math, and science, but replaced by others, science, STEM, math, and a social worker. So, but it just in a different school that needed it. So, but those people were hired during ARP-ESSER because of the amount of students that we had and the needs that we had. The social workers specifically, we have a social worker now in each of our schools, or one that shares a couple schools. So with the social emotional needs of our kids and our families, their needs, social workers help families and they help children. So that was really a necessity, and that will be ongoing. There are other positions in ARP-ESSER that we won't be continuing, but those 4 we thought we really wanted to make sure we had covered.
And so those 4 positions from ARP-ESSER, 2 social workers, are those the district?
They're in schools, but they're across the
Right.
district.
And then the 2 middle school?
And science, STEM, a science and a STEM middle school.
Okay. And then for Fitch, sorry.
So the
ELA,
retirements
math,
were
science.
specifically, I think at Fitch, there might have been one at the middle school, and the ARP-ESSER replacements were across the district and at the middle school.
But for Fitch, it was ELA, math, science, and social studies?
Yep.
And one of them may have been at the middle school? Or
One of them may have been the middle school. It might have been, yeah.
It's so with a teacher less in ELA, math, science, and maybe social studies, what effect does that have on class size, course offerings, and
So
what's the strategy?
we've really worked hard. We've had a scheduler through Power School, a consultant working with us on our schedules. We really did a survey with our staff, looking for some ideas to really make the schedules better. And in some classes, depending on the classes, we typically will have between 20, 24 at the middle school, but at the high school we were seeing numbers like 14 to 22. So we were able to redo these schedules and balance them better so that you would have in a high school, in a middle school, between 20 and 24 students. There are specialized classes like special education, the culinary arts, because the facility is the way it is and needs refurbishing. We can only get 16, on each side, and there are hundreds of kids that get turned away from culinary because of that. So, there are different specialty areas that might have fewer than that, but if you look at most of the core instruction and some of the, enrichment or the electives, they typically are between 20 and 24, and with this new scheduling, we're really balancing it better.
Okay, thank you. I'll just close my comments by saying that, education, a good quality public education, is really one of the fundamental pillars of a free democratic society. And we have responsibility to our town and the children being brought up in it to fund this well. And same thing goes for our educators. If we want high quality education, if we want students to graduate and be well trained, well educated, to take some of the jobs that are growing in town, then we need to support our educators. And one way to support them is by thanking them. Thank you for coming out. Another way to support them is to pay them somewhat to the level of what their jobs really entail and what they deserve. I don't think we're close to that nationally, but zeroing it out and cutting teachers would be a disservice to the town, its children, and the school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Gauthier.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So I share the reservations about the Alliance District. It's a total catch-22, right? It's great that we're getting extra support to bring our district up to a better level for our students, but also once you graduate from that, that's a lot of funding lost. That's a lot of support lost. So it's that balancing act of wanting to do better and be better, but making sure we can sustain it once we get there. I 100% share reservations about the MBR being raised, about, like I said, the Alliance District money going away. How are we going to recoup that? But let's remember that this budget isn't in a vacuum, right? Let's remember that as a parent myself with a preschooler, soon to be kindergartner, he starts kindergarten in the fall, I shopped around school districts. I looked at my options and really considered, was Groton where I wanted to send my son and my son after that? I have friends doing the same exact thing from other districts that want to send their kids to Groton, and they're trying to figure out how they can make that happen because they don't like the school district they're in. If we're talking about wanting to build multifamily houses, how are we going to get families with children here if they don't want to be in this school district? Right? I hate to play that card, right? But it's an economic development issue. We want money in here. We need families here. Families are going to spend the money at the restaurants, the shops, the daycares. They're not going to come here if they don't like our schools. And if we're not investing in our schools, that's families walking away. We talk about that 80% of employees that work in Groton, they're taking their families somewhere else. Groton has to be comprehensively, holistically ideal for new residents. And that includes an education that they can support and send their kids to because it's being funded, because we are treating our teachers well, and we have quality teachers, and the turnover and the burnout isn't killing them, right? I have friends that are educators, so I've heard it. My sister is a paraprofessional here in the school district. I've heard it. I have reservations about increasing this budget, but big picture, we want Groton to grow. We need families. That's just a population truth across America. People are fighting for new bodies in the form of children. If you want the children to come, if you want the families here, you want their tax dollars, invest in your education because you get them for 12 years. You get them K through 12. That's why I'm supporting this budget.
Thank you. Representative Scott, this is, I think, your second time on this topic.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I fully support this amended number. I heard some comments about, we don't cut the town manager's budget and went up a certain number. I guess where I bristle under that commentary is we have more power over the other aspects of the town budget, where we're absolutely handcuffed with the minimum budget rule on this one. This is a budget that historically seems to go up $1.5 million, $2 million, $3 million, back down to $1.5 million a year. Historically, there is precedence. In the past, the RTM has issued a 0% increase. It has happened, it used to happen, I was thinking, on every other year basis. It's been a while since we've done it. And I think that helps us to control the growth of our budget. You know, people talk about we need good education to get people to come to the town of Groton. We also need low taxes to get people to come to the town of Groton. And again, homeowners are bearing the burden in this budget cycle, and they will be for the near future because of the way homes were evaluated versus commercial property. So I think it's a smart move, a responsible move to use last year's number for this year's budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Casper.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. As I look, I see there's a forecast of the school population going up by 230. If we take the 230 new students and apply the average of 18,000 and change that Groton has been paying per student, the increase would come up to 4.2 million. And this budget is below that, so I have to commend you for that. And now we are lowering our average cost per student with this budget.
Representative Surf.
Yes. I too believe in a good education for children. I think it's so important. And in fact, in America, we're way behind our European peers, so we need to do some catching up now. Along those lines, I've read a lot recently about how, because kids are so computer literate these days, some computer aided learning programs have been very, very successful with kids, and especially with kids from disadvantaged homes and educations who really take to these programs like ducks to water. They just love them. Are you implementing any of these? Because it would also help, I think it would help the teachers, and it might reduce the number of teachers that we need, and it would help the students. So it would be a win-win-win if we did more computer-aided learning. Can you answer that for me, please?
I'd be happy to. We absolutely do use technology, but we use it wisely. When we were in the pandemic for 3 years, and the community needs to know that the pandemic had great effects on our children's learning. We're trying to accelerate learning. Therefore, they need their teachers and they need their smaller class sizes. They don't need larger class sizes. We do have some of the best technology resources, but you have to be careful because there's nothing that replaces a good teacher, a good paraprofessional, a good tutor. And we've actually piloted a couple new technologies, and the teachers gave us feedback, and they really were not helping our children access learning. And so we did not continue with it. So you have to be really very careful. We noticed that during the pandemic, when they were home, when they were using technology, it really impaired sometimes their social skills, and it impaired their reading and writing and math ability. So it's really important that we have them back to community in our schools with our teachers and the support staff to make sure that we're accelerating their learning and they're really catching up after this pandemic.
Are you evaluating different types of programs and how they do in other schools?
We always do. We evaluate, yes, we evaluate what we're using, and we usually use the best that's out there.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Amboise.
Madam Moderator, I'd like to move the question, please.
Second.
Okay, that motion was made by Representative Amboise, seconded by Representative Patino. It is a 2/3 vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those online, if you're in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, if you can lower your hand. All of those opposed to the question being called. Representative Gauthier, Representative Whitney, Representative Wells, Representative Eben, Representative Scott, and Representative Cerf. Oh, I'm sorry, and Representative Chase. Sorry, I missed you. That's the second time. I'm sorry, you're like tiny back there. Okay, if you could lower your hands. Anyone abstaining? Okay, then that motion passes. We have, oh, quick math, 31 minus 7. 24, thank you. 24 to 7 to 0. Okay, so the number on the floor is 79,100.
Million.
I'm sorry, thank you. Let me try that again. We really cut your budget. Woo, that would have been a lot. Sorry. 79,157,271. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote, please. So the number again, 79,157,271. That is the lower number. Go ahead.
Representative Adams,
Yes.
Amboise,
Nay.
Bailey,
Yes.
Burrell,
No.
Bright, Casper, Surf,
Yes.
Chase,
Yes.
Hop,
No.
Dean Shimbrough,
Yes.
Eben,
No.
Gardner,
Yes.
Gauthier,
Nope.
Gustafson,
No.
Hainline,
No.
Hanscom,
No.
Caden,
No.
Massett, Nope. McElroy,
No.
Merritt,
No.
Norman,
No.
Powers Kristen,
No.
Powers Sean,
No.
Pacino,
No.
Scott,
Yes.
Cimarero,
No.
VZ Williams,
No.
Watson,
No.
Wells,
No.
Whitney,
No.
Rusk,
No.
Brickman is here.
23 noes,
Did you
and
get
8.
Representative
Brickman is here.
Oh, Frickman.
Oh.
Point of
sorry.
information.
Hold on one second, we're
Wait a
still in the middle of a vote.
Representative Frickman is here.
Hold on, we're still in the middle of a vote. Representative Frickman,
916.
I didn't get the vote. I wanted to vote no.
okay,
Okay,
okay.
so it's
So that motion fails, 8 to 24 to 0. Representative Eben.
I was trying to alert you that we had a new member.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Cerf.
Yes, I'd like to put a new number on the floor. I would like to try to cut the budget by $1 million exactly. So the new number would be 80 million $510,627.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Representative Gardner. Motion made by Representative Sir. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, well, briefly, the same reasons as before. I think this would help the taxpayers. It would bring the increase down a bit, and it's not, it's not the full cut to last year's number. So I think this is a reasonable cut. I'm hoping people will consider it that way. And I know our school system is good enough to be able to help the residents out with that and still maintain the quality of the education. Thank you.
Representative Gauthier?
Thank you. Superintendent Austin, one thing that I think I'd like to understand a little bit deeper, I've been looking for an index of what different services every other, I'll move over. Sorry about that. So looking at some of the salary increases and other expense increases in here, I see that operational support jumped 1.2. Am I correct in thinking that's like the administrative salaries? Or partially the administrative salaries?
I don't know what line you're looking at. What are you
I lost my page too.
Oh.
So it listed out
salaries?
it listed out salaries, and there was one broken out for teachers, so I know the jump wasn't for teachers, but it said operational support under other services.
I'm going to have to refer to Ken Knight, who's our business manager. You're saying
So-
the
Here, I found it.
the
5-1.
5-1,
So
Ken.
the
Thank you.
category under support services, operational support, it's a $1,294,104 increase for the year. Is that administrative salaries? What's operational support?
We're going to get some information from Ken.
From
Yeah, I can answer that.
Thank you.
That is being driven by really maybe three factors. The biggest factor is the renegotiation of the bus contract over this year. In addition, that line also would cover the increase in our diesel fuel and heating and electricity. So those are the things that are driving that increase.
Understood. Thank you so much. So going again up to the next block on that 5-1, there's instruction, and it tells me what the budget is for all of that. And support services, is that the administrative salaries? I'm just trying to understand where those are sitting in here.
Ken, did you hear that?
No.
Can you tell me what
Where-
where it says general support?
Yep, so we're in the budget book on page 5-1. The title is Groton Public Schools.
The
and
red budget book.
Yep, the red budget book.
Very
And
tough.
there's two tables. I addressed the second table, but now I want to talk about summary at program level 1. Description, instruction.
Okay, yep.
I'm assuming instruction are our educators.
Correct.
And support services are what?
Support services, so it kind of is broken down on that next level down. That includes support services for pupil, for staff, general support, and the operational support that we've talked about previously.
Okay, so again, I'm
So
looking.
that 1,826 is inclusive of like the bus contract and the fuel and the electricity.
So what's that like 600,000 delta between the increase shown in summary program level 1 and summary program level 2?
Let's see. So general support is increased by 325,000, and that is increases in the central office. Then there's a staff increase of 68,278. That's mostly.
I'm sorry.
pupil
I'll stop you.
instruction.
I'll stop you because I found my own confusion and I corrected it. But again, the question: where's the administrator's salaries baked into this whole thing? I don't see that broken out specifically, and that's what I'm looking for.
Okay, administrative salaries would be under school administration, which is part of general support services.
5. So I just had to flip the page.
General support services, school administration.
You always got me, Jackie. Thank you. All right. Let me, so on 5.3 you're saying, which
Yep,
is,
if you go down to the left
Yep.
under general support services.
school administration right
item
there.
number 2410.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Correct.
And the average salary increase was 2.4%.
Were those all contractual on the administrative salaries?
Yes.
Are all administrators under contracts with
All
obligated
administrators are under
salary
contract
increases?
except for central office and the superintendent.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Cobb.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'd like to move another number. Not sure if this is legal, but I'm going to give it a try. I'd like to move $81,510,626.
That's a nuisance. Point of order, that's a nuisance.
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
I said I didn't know if it was legal?
Yeah.
Okay. I made a mistake. I was a nuisance.
It's considered a frivolous motion. Okay. Seeing no other hands raised, Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Everybody's talking about how much their costs are going up in fuel and electricity, and, well, the taxpayers' costs are going up too. And not everybody has a union contract. And there's not really a correlation between the amount of money you spend per student and the actual quality of their education. If that was the case, the kids in Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis would all be very well educated because they spend a lot more money than we do. And I have my doubts sometimes whether the students are actually being educated. All you have to do is do a man on the street interview with college students, and they really don't know very much. So, and the other thing I would like to say is these salaries are contracted, so that means the students and the taxpayers are being held hostage by the teachers' union. So,
Representative Whitney.
Just briefly, I'd say that I have great confidence that our growing generation is going to bring our future in good hands, and they are being well educated at all levels of public education. But then I'd also like to say that I do not support the amended number. I only support the original number. I don't understand really. I understand the desire to trim the budget and keep taxes low. I don't understand the tendency, other than it's a big target number, to try to reduce the budget on the backs of our children and our educators in our schools. And then I'll just point out a parallel with public safety. We heard the same things. Labor costs are going up. There's more training, more requirements, and more responsibilities that we as a society deem important. So, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands, the number on the floor is 80,510,627. I will do a roll call vote.
Okay, Representative Adams.
Yes.
Amboise,
Nope.
Bailey,
Yes.
Burrell.
No.
Bright,
Yes.
Casper,
No.
Surf,
Yes.
Chase,
Yes.
Cop,
No.
Dean Shimbrough,
Yes.
Eben,
No.
Frickman,
No.
Gardner,
Yes.
Gothier,
No.
Gustafson,
He is no longer on. Oh, he is there. Sorry. Representative Gustafson?
No, I said no.
Thank you.
oh, okay. Hainline,
No?
Hanscom,
No.
Caden, Massett,
No.
McElroy, Merritt,
No.
Norman,
No.
Kristen Powers,
No.
Sean Powers, Pacino,
No.
Scott,
Yes.
Cimarero,
No.
Feezy Williams,
No.
Watson,
No.
Wells,
No.
Whitney,
No.
and Rusk.
No. So again, that fails 8 to 24 to 0. So the current number on the floor that we are voting on now,
Wait,
Representative Gothier.
I'd like to move a number. I really do feel for the MVR. Don't think I don't understand.
Your number?
That's the desire, right? Is to hold that MVR. But my number is 81,485,914. This is a $24,713 reduction, which I believe is the non-contractual salary increases. I'm hoping that this is a little bit of a give without completely harming our students. I know otherwise we can't really decide where the cuts are going to happen, but maybe in this way we can do something to chip away at an increase. Even nominally, I know it's close to frivolous. If you want to, I don't have a second yet, so you don't have to second it, but I'm trying to
Yeah, can
balance.
we get a second? If we're
Is
gonna
there a
continue
second on the
discussion,
floor?
please?
We have been, Representative Gardner. I'm just going to note that we have been discussing this topic for an hour and 45 minutes approximately at this point, just so we know.
Usual.
And I'm not saying we can't continue discussion. This is where we're at. Is there any discussion on Representative Gothier's number? Representative Whitney.
Just a quick point that in the town services side of things, the town manager has stated before that they try to maintain parity between the union and non-union people. Otherwise, it falls out of step, and eventually you're not able to retain people or attract new ones.
And I would say the Board of Ed has done the same.
Thank you. Okay, so the number we are voting on now is $81,485,914. It was seconded by Gardner. We're going to, again, do a roll call vote.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Adams.
Yes.
Amboise.
No.
Bailey.
Yes.
Burrell. Bright.
No.
Casper.
No.
Surf.
Yes.
Chase.
No.
Cop.
No.
Dean Shimbrough.
No.
Eben.
No.
Frickman.
No.
Gardner.
Yes.
Gothier.
Yes.
Gibbs. Oh, sorry, she's not here. Gustafson.
No.
Hainline.
No.
Hanscom.
No.
Caden. Massett.
No.
McElroy. Merritt.
No.
Norman. Kristen Powers. Sean Powers.
No.
Pacino.
No.
Scott.
Yes.
Was that a yes?
That was a yes.
Yeah, okay. Cimarero.
No.
VZ Williams.
No.
Watson.
No.
Wells.
No.
Whitney.
No.
Rusk.
No. So that motion fails
20.
6 to 26 to 0. So the Representative Frickman.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the new number, and I support the original number. And I also want to take a quick second to say that I think you guys are doing a great job. And for a representative to compare our kids to a skit on TV is an insult to our students, and I didn't take kindly. So also I want to say happy Teacher Appreciation Week to our teachers and our administrators. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So the number on the floor now is 81,510,627. All those in favor, please raise your hands.
Be a contrarian like the rest.
Usually I just do it by all those opposed. Okay, if you could lower your hand, please. Okay, all those opposed. We have Representative Adams, Representative Chase, Representative Gardner, Representative Bailey, Representative Scott. So 5. If you could please lower your hands. Representative Scott, if you could lower your hand, please. Thank you. Anyone abstaining? Representative Dean Shinbrot? So that motion passes 25 to 5 to 1. Thank you all for hanging out with us in that vote. We are going to take a 10-minute recess, so if you can please be back by 9:45.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back at 9:46. Next up is CIP 5A on page 255, which is, I believe, page 225, which is a zero budget, zero everything. So there's absolutely nothing we can do. So we are going to continue to move on.
Point of order, Madam.
Yes.
Moderator? Hi.
Yes.
For other CIPs that we zeroed, we did have discussion on it. I think that that should be afforded to every CIP, regardless of whether or not they were zeroed.
Did you guys discuss it in your meeting?
We discussed them. I'll read that portion of the minutes.
Go for it.
It's out of order in terms of, just out of order in our minutes, out of sequence, I'll say.
Okay.
And I'll just read it for the 4 and then read what we have in the minutes for that. And then you can go from there. CIP 5A, Fitch High School Athletic Facilities, page 225. CIP 5B, Fitch High School Field House, page 226. CIP 5E, Fitch High School Culinary Arts, page 227. CIP 5H, Fitch High School Bleachers, page 230. These CIPs are zero in both the town manager's and town council budget. Therefore, the RTM cannot fund these CIPs. The committee did not vote on recommendations for these CIPs. Board of Ed Chair Watson spoke to the importance of funding these CIPs in coming years.
Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, we will move on to CIP 5F, security cameras, page 228.
Thank you. So this is CIP 5F, security cameras, page 228. Motion by Representative Chase to recommend $245,000 for CIP 5F security cameras. Seconded by Representative Gustafson. Rationale, this is the amount passed by the town council. Passed, 5 in favor, 0 opposed, and no abstentions. This CIP covers upgrading cameras, radios, other security hardware, and camera management systems at older schools to equal the security equipment and software in the newer schools. A state grant application may provide a 48 to 58% reimbursement if funded. So I will move $245,000.
Motion made by Chair Whitney, seconded by Representative Bright. Is there any questions or comments? Representative Gauthier.
So maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I'm looking at the description for G, where it discusses cameras, and I'm just wondering what's the difference between the cameras that we're talking about here in F and in G. So is one just a service versus actual hardware? Because why are we having two different CIPs for cameras is my question. So one's a service or a system. Is that what I'm hearing?
If I may, hi everyone, I'm Clint Kennedy. I'm the Director of Technology for Groton Public Schools. You are correct. The G line, the 150, is a mutual link system. It is a software solution which will utilize and tie together the cameras and software and services that we have in the current item that we're talking about.
So one's a hardware and one's a software. And
There's no hardware involved in the G line.
But in the F line, we're talking about getting
correct.
the cameras.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you.
Representative Norman. I'm sorry, Representative Gardner had his hand up next. My apologies.
Could I just add to that? In 5F, there's both hardware and software.
Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. The cameras are going to be placed in the schools. Where in the schools? Are we talking hallways or all the classrooms?
So there is some discussion about whether we should publicly acknowledge the exact location of cameras. So I want to very much answer your question. I would say they would be both internal and external to the school.
Okay, so there won't be cameras in the classroom so that
I think the answer to that was that it's not recommended by security, meaning the police, Homeland Security, correct?
All right.
To
Thank you.
specify exact locations. Representative Norman?
Just a quick question. These security cameras, emergency situations only, this is not going to be used to like prosecute students on like you did drugs in the bathroom, we're calling the police now?
Speak into the mic.
Oh, sorry. Do you want me to repeat that question? Yes. Okay. Sorry. Quick question. This is to be used in emergency situations only. It is not going to be necessarily to criminalize, or will it also be used to, in like criminalization of like you did drugs in the bathroom or calling the police? Like, what is happening here as evidence for that?
The technology that this can provide will link our schools to the police department. Should there be someone who comes into the school, should there be some serious situation that is an emergency situation. This is being done by the state police, so Grosso Tech is going to also have that on our campus. So it's really important that all of our schools are connected, and in case of an emergency, whether a panic button gets pushed, that instead of the police, even though they're just across the street coming in and looking at maps, they'll have a mapped out system that they will see exactly where the emergency is happening and can assist us immediately.
Great. I'm super in favor of this then.
Representative Gauthier? Okay. Representative Whitney?
I just had a quick question. I wrote down that a state grant application may provide, but I was wondering if you could speak to what type of state grant that is, what the program is. And if it includes 5G, actually, too.
Yeah, it does not include 5G at this time. We did make application to a state security grant that Chief Fusaro forwarded on to us to include these cameras. So if we do get that grant, the exact percentage hasn't been determined yet by the state. It will be determined by the value of, or the ability of the town to pay at that time. But these state grants have come in Groton in the 50% range. Some have been slightly more than 50%, and some just under 48% was the least that I've seen over the years. But.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There were actually two grants that we've applied for. So there's a federal grant and a state grant.
Representative Surf?
Yes, I'm in favor of spending whatever we need to spend to keep our children safe. And somebody will probably call point of order on me for this because I suggested it 10 years ago and it was not received happily. But I think our whole school system should go on strike for a few days, including the children, to protest the fact that we haven't completely abolished automatic weapons
Representative
and
Surf,
military
this is
style
off topic. Thank you.
in our state.
Representative Surf, you're out of order.
Who said that?
Jill
Excuse
Rusk.
me?
Moderator Rusk said you are out of order. Okay.
Okay, but you know, it's really easy when I
Moderator-
can be out of order
Representative
on
Surf.
something that is so basic to the
Representative
safety
Surf,
of our
we are
children.
not talking about gun violence right now. I would like to say, as a mother who lived through the event at Fitch High School a number of years ago where they thought that there was a gun in the school, it was a very long morning, and I would have loved to have these cameras in the school at that time. It was absolutely terrifying, and I have to say you have amazing staff. Brings tears to my eyes every time, sorry. Amazing staff who kept our kids safe. And thank God it was nothing, but it definitely could have been something, so thank you. On that note, sorry, the number on Representative Amboise. Okay. No. The number on the floor is $245,000. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Please lower your hands. Do you know what our current number is? 32.
Did we skip D?
Hold
There
on.
is no D.
There is no D.
Yeah.
If you could lower your hands, please. All those opposed? We only have 31 before. Anyone abstaining? That number passes unanimously. We're just trying to make sure we have an exact number. 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 29. Do you have 29?
No, I have 32. Who's left besides eight?
Caden left. Caden is on. Okay, we're gonna do a really quick, we have Adams and Waugh. Hold on, did he leave? No. Bailey? Yes.
Yep.
Burrell?
Yes. Bright, Casper, Surf,
Mm-hmm.
Chase, Cop, Dean Chimbra.
Excuse me, is this a roll call vote over the other one?
No, I just wanna
no, I
make
think
sure we
Scott
have an
left.
accurate count. If you could just hold one moment, please.
Evan, Frickman,
Eben, Frickman, yep.
Fritchie.
Richie wasn't, Richie's not.
So 13, 14, 15.
Gibbs.
No, Gibbs isn't here.
Okay. Gustafson.
15, 16, 17.
Hold on, let me make sure hands comes up there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
she's
at the
there.
bottom.
Okay.
17,
Caden left.
18,
Massett.
19.
Jackie Massett's not up there. So there's your next one.
Yeah, I just didn't know we were, now I know we're friends.
Maybe at the break.
All right, so we've got
McElroy is here.
18,
Merritt is here.
19,
Norman.
21, 22,
Pacino's here.
23, 24.
Representative Scott is not.
Yeah, we got it. Same as the book.
Do you, town manager, do you have times that people left in the chat by any chance? So Scott is not up there.
In the chat or online?
Representative Surf, if you could just hold one moment, please. Richardson Moreau's here. VC Williams is
Moderator
here.
Russ, there's nothing in the chat unless they did it.
Thank you. We're
some
just
other
trying to confirm our number right now of
Watson,
Watson is,
Wells is here, Whitney, and you.
I don't see Watson. Oh, yeah, Watson's here. Okay.
So,
So you had 32 minus 3.
Jill,
So we have 20.
lady left? Right here in the middle, right in the middle?
yeah, right
Yes, Kaden. Yep, we
Yeah,
have
she
her.
left.
She let us know.
Cadden.
Cadden,
I
thank
messed
you.
it up. It's all my fault. It's
Cadden.
Cadden like Madden.
Cadden, thank you.
I've been saying it wrong this whole time. I know. It's all my. It's blame it. It's me. And she never.
She's such a
There's
nuisance.
29, I think.
She never corrected me. I feel like such a bad person.
14 on Zoom.
29.
So 29 of us, so that,
Mm-hmm.
we did just vote on this, correct? Thank you. 29 to 0 to 0. Thank you. It's getting late. All right, we have one more CIP to go. That's correct?
2.
No, we have 2 more to go. CIP. 5,
G.
it is 10:01. Can I get a consensus? Are we willing to stay at least through the CIPs and hopefully one more?
Yeah.
We're good? Everybody can stay for a couple more
Yes.
minutes? Okay. CIP 5G. Go for it.
So I'll just say first that there's a question about CIP 5C.
Can't hear.
Oh, there's a question about CIP 5C. There is no 5C in the budget book, and there's no 5D either. So this is CIP 5G, District Safety and Security. It's page 229. A motion by Representative Chase to recommend $150,000 for CIP 5G, District Safety and Security. Seconded by Representative Whitney. Rationale, this is the amount passed by the Town Council. Passed, 5 in favor, none opposed, and no abstentions. This CIP covers the cost of the Municipal that connects all school security systems and allows for centralized first responder access to communications and security cameras during critical events. So I move $150,000 for CIP 5G.
Motion was made by Chair Whitney, seconded very excitedly by Representative Bright. Representative Gauthier. I'm sorry, Chair, were you done with your minute? Good. Okay.
Yes.
Representative Gauthier.
Just some general questions I always ask with these things. Are there going to be any associated maintenance costs with this software?
Yes, there will be associated maintenance costs. This represents the dollars necessary for us to set up hardware, the service as well as licensing for 3 years.
Okay, and those maintenance costs will be baked into your budget going forward?
Correct.
And how long is this software good for before we need to go out to bid and buy more software? New software, different software, better software?
I'm doing my best educated guess. I would believe this system would be fully functional and operational. This, along with the CIP budget, which is necessary for this because this sits on top of that hardware, camera, hardware, software, and so forth. I would say 7 to 10 years.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. This cost, does that include software updates over the?
It does indeed.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Cerf.
Yes, just as a precaution against a freedom of information problem, 5G is not on our R.T.M list. I don't know if there's a reason for that or somebody just forgot, but it is not on our list, so I don't know whether you need to add it there just to cover us, or I see it in my book, but I don't see it on the list.
It was added on the list. We're good. It's a draft. The only thing that is foiable would be the actual agenda, and it is on the agenda. So we're good. Okay, so the number that we are moving is $150,000. All those in favor, please raise your hand. I gotcha. Okay, if you can put your hands down. If you can put your hands down, please. Representative Frickman and Cerf, if you could put your hands down, please, we can move forward. All those opposed? Anyone abstaining? So that motion passes unanimously, 29-0. Next up is CIP 5I, Fitch High School sewer line repair.
This is on page 231. Motion by Representative Gibbs to recommend $75,000 for CIP 5I Fitch High School sewer line repairs. Seconded by Representative Gustafson. Rationale, this is the amount passed by the Town Council. Passed, 5 in favor, none opposed, and no abstentions. This CIP covers the cost of needed sewer line repairs in the sub-level of the old section of Fitch High School. I will move $75,000 for CIP 5I.
Gauthier, second.
I got Gauthier. I didn't hear whoever else said it. Sorry. Okay. Are there any questions? This was something that got brought up a while ago. We discussed this here in this room.
Sorry for being a nuisance.
Okay. All right. Seeing no questions, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Representative Amboise? Okay, Everyone can lower their hand, please. Anyone opposed? Oop, sorry, didn't wait long enough. Representative Cerf, I believed you voted yes.
Let me lower my hand.
Okay. All those
Clarification, Madam Moderator, I was in favor. I was in favor.
Thank you. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Then that motion passes 29 to 0. So we are at, thank you so much, everybody, for staying. And so where we are at right now is Fire District, and we have Representative Chase.
Since the chief's been here all night very patiently, I don't mind staying.
I would like to do that if everybody is okay with that. Okay, Chief, if you want to come on up. Okay. So we are on.
Madam Moderator, Watson, I'm leaving.
Okay, thank you, Representative Watson. We do need to keep 22 to keep a quorum. So we have 28.
I'm staying.
Okay, so we are on item number 1092, Fire Districts Pilot, on page 182.
Thank you. There we go. Thank you. 1092, the Fire Districts Pilot, a amount was moved for $436,383 by Representative Kopp and seconded by Representative Sommarero. This is an increase across all districts, kind of a flat increase with a bit more of a bump up on Pequannock Bridge. It was explained that the Pequannock Bridge Fire District has the largest share, not only of places to serve, but also of the non-taxable property. So the discussion that was held, Representative Cerf asked if this was really just redistributing pilot dollars from the state and not really an expenditure. The answer was pretty much yes. They receive part of the state pilot funds that the town of Groton receives. Representative Gauthier asked a few questions about how much the town is receiving in pilot, what that looks like in terms of what we're actually owed from the state, and what that actually looks like for Chief Driscoll. And he indicated that from the properties in cumulative, he loses about $1.5 million in taxes year over year. And this, I believe, would account for about 30%, if I have that note correct. Anyways, 35%, where are we going? The reason that Pequannock Bridge specifically was upped, as I mentioned, was because of the fact that we haven't done this calculation in terms of how many we haven't done like an evaluation in many years, and I'm going to stop rambling. Unanimous vote, 5 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstaining. Manager Burt or Chief Driscoll, if you'd like to speak to this.
Can you put a number on the floor?
I thought I did 436,383.
436,383. Motion made by the chair, seconded by Representative Chase, I believe?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and start it off. You can see on page 182 the detail about the fire district pilot. There's 2 components. One is the pilot for state properties. Of course, there are a lot of non-taxable state properties throughout town, both fire districts, the town. We don't receive any direct taxes on that. So what the state does is give you a portion. It's not whole, but they give you a portion of what you're missing out in taxes. Just so you know what we received from the state, last year is about 1.7 million. It's in the ballpark of 2.5 this year, and then it's about 1.5 for next year. However, the amount has stayed the same that we've been giving the fire districts since about 2002. The other part is the town making up for town-owned properties that aren't taxed and collected by fire districts. So, as I said, it's been stable, a total of 246,000 since 2002. There's some previous history to that, but I think that's the relevant number right here. There's been a lot of talk over the years of trying to get a little more parity with the fire districts. So I put in this year 100,000, first of all, for Peconic Bridge fire is impacted the most by non-taxable property. I put in 100,000 as a start for Peconic Bridge this year, and that was sort of just as, I think over time we'll probably need to get this up higher. However, as a starting place, that's about what they pay for rental for fire hydrants from GU. So that was sort of my thought process, and then taking that 100,000 as a start, and then prorated amounts for the other districts, and then at the town council, I don't have the number in front of me, they added that other 30 or so thousand on for directly for Peconic Bridge fire, bringing the total up to 405 total. And just so you know, the town's public safety committee is just started last night reviewing this for the future to see where they want to go in the future. It's going to take a few months, but I expect to at least go up some more eventually. So.
Any questions? Seeing none, the number on the floor is $436,383. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, if you can lower your hands, please. If you could lower your hands, please. Representative Dean Shinbrot, if you could lower your hand, please. Okay, all those opposed? Anyone abstaining? Representative Gardner? That motion passes 27 to 0 to 1. Good. Thank you so much for waiting so late tonight. We appreciate your time. Next, we have 3 more things on the list. So page 53, item number 1001, legislative policy.
Account 1001, the legislative policy, an amount for $42,500 was moved by Representative Cadden and seconded by Representative Semeraro. Mr. Burt talked to the fact that this was mostly the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, as well as a few little things for kind of like the town council, R.T.M. I understand it was like printing agendas and such, if I get that right. Representative Cerf asked about the Jabez house, why there was nothing allocated there. Mr. Burt indicated that it's kind of an old line item. It hasn't been allocated for a while because it's not being used, but maintenance is still being performed through the Public Works Department. So it's still getting regular maintenance. There's heat running to keep the pipes from freezing and such. This account was moved unanimously, 5 in favor, 0 opposed. So I'd like to motion $42,500 for this account.
Any questions on this item? Representative Eben.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Yeah, I was just curious, and I have to say it was very hard to hear Representative Gauthier read her minutes, so maybe it was said, but the cover page on this says attend town council meetings, attend regular R.T.M. meetings, but I see this more as material, so I'm just wondering where the action verb is. Like, is paying someone's salary to attend these meetings? Since that's what it seems to imply.
Well, and that's that cost center has existed for probably 20 years that way. So that's how until it gets restructured, that's how it's been left, because it really doesn't change barely at all from year to year. As Representative Gauthier said, it's almost exclusively, or a huge amount of it, is just the CCM membership, which every municipality in Connecticut is a member. There are lobbyists. They provide a ton of educational classes, that type of thing. And they also do some pay study work that we take advantage of. A couple of other interesting items of interest in this is we do reimburse for flags for cemeteries, for veterans memorials. initiatives, that is the beautification dollars, the beautification committee, 4,000. Next year, I anticipate, if you recall, up until 2 years ago, maybe we used to have the water taxi under that in here, and then once we realized, oh, that's going to stay around for a while, then we moved it over with the other outside agency thing. So this is still in this one at this point. We would probably move it next year for next year's budget. And
Is the Jabez Smith I see is zeroed out, is that mostly dealt with in CIPs at this point?
it's through the Public Works budget. They do all the regular maintenance of it. We mow it, we keep the heat going on it. So what it used to be mostly out of this was the fuel oil, but that was moved and consolidated not long ago.
Thank you.
Okay, Representative Kopp was next.
Can you check the number on the board? I think it might be 42,650, 42,650.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
Was that, somebody else had their hand? Was that you too?
Surf does.
Okay, Representative Surf.
Yes, this is for who to attend all these meetings?
Well, it's the town council budget, but really the bulk of this is for their membership to the CCM.
Also, it's the town council attending other meetings? Is that it?
Under that cost center, yes.
Is that I'm sorry, go ahead, finish.
It's not for you or your staff or any of the other administrative staff to attend the meeting?
No, this is a strictly, unless you count, like I mentioned, it has beautification in there, but no, there's no staff in this budget.
Yeah, I'm only questioning that top number, which is the 30,000 to a town council.
And that's the CCM membership.
Mostly CCM, okay, great, thank you.
The CCM is 33,000 of that. It
Okay.
might go up a little bit next year. It's 33,000 this year. We haven't heard yet for next year.
And just for clarification on that, all elected officials, all city, or all town employees can attend
Utilize.
all CCM.
Yeah, you're correct.
Yes.
We have quite a lot of people that go to those, actually. They're free to members.
Representative Surf, did you have another question?
Oh, sorry, forgot to lower my hand.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, the number on the board is $42,650. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, if you can lower your hands. Anyone opposed? Sorry, didn't quite give them time to all get their hands down. Representative Frickman, if you could lower your hand, please. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion passes 29-0. Next. 28, my apologies, 28-0. Next up is item 1006, legal services, found on page 63.
Account 1006, legal services, the amount for $385,000 was moved by Representative Kopp and seconded by Representative Semeraro. Representative Surf asked if the miscellaneous line could be broken further to understand.
Sorry.
You okay?
Apologies, I'm good.
Representative Surf asked if the miscellaneous line item could be broken down further to understand where those costs were being allocated. Mr. Burt indicated not really. It was mostly from the R.T.M. A lot of it, like when we have questions in the middle of meetings and trying to get an answer quickly. Representative Gauthier asked if the town went out to bid, how many respondents they received, what were the results. Mr. Burt indicated that there were more than three, or at least three respondents, and that this was a significantly lower bid, in part due to the length of the contract, but also the fact that they're a municipality, so they usually get a lower bid for it. And if we were to choose a new firm, it would be about twice as much. The vote was unanimous on this, 5-0. I move the number of $385,000.
Motion was made by the chair, seconded by Representative Sean Powers. Are there any questions? Representative Cerf.
Yes, is a question for the town manager. How much does it cost for the town attorney to go up to Hartford with those of us who are accused of freedom of information violations and go through a hearing there?
Well, the bigger expense of that is actually how many hours of prep time do they have to do? Not, it's not as expensive. They're $130-something an hour, but most, that's, the actual Hartford part's the cheap part.
Well, you have to drive up there and be there, and so just as a rough approximation, can you tell us how much it costs on the average?
I could tell you that when we have something that's a FOIA complaint, I anticipate spending $4,000 to $5,000 on it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Mr. Burt, this was discussed in committee. It was about $35,000 spent on FOI the past year.
Right, which is up quite a bit from before. We don't usually spend that much on FOI because we do most of that work in-house. So unless we get an actual complaint, then we spend money.
Yeah, I actually had the pleasure of having to do that last Friday, so I was just curious how much it cost the town.
$35,000. Thank you, Representative Cerf.
Representative Gardner.
No, it was $35,000.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Mr. Burt, what do we spend the most legal services on? What kind of cases? Or is it more of an advisory role?
It's, for instance, labor's a lot. Dealing with union, not just the negotiations, but we spend over $100,000 on about $100,000 like this year on that. We get regular complaints. You go to mediation. You have arbitrations, that type of thing. So that's probably the biggest category. Well, actually, because assessment, as I found out, assessment comes out of the reval fund. Some of them, it's split. That can be significant at times. Tax work, helping tax collections, that's fairly significant. You have a lot of random stuff. Public Works, about $26,000 this year. Each thing kind of moves depending on what's happening. For instance, this year we had 3 contracts besides a lot of other stuff going on for the labor. So, and just a reminder, per charter, we're going to have a fourth quarter transfer for about $190,000 at the next meeting. Per charter, it's guaranteed access for this, so we end up having to pay whatever we have to pay. So.
And so if you come up short in this budget, comes out of the general fund at the end of the year?
Fourth quarter, yeah, it is a fourth quarter transfer, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Madam Moderator, I'd like to move another number.
What's your number?
$350,000.
Is there a second? I'll second. Seconded by Chase. Do you want to speak to your number?
No.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Well, and as I mentioned, we had about 190,000 over this year that we have to do, which luckily we had enough contingency for. However, if you had we've had winters where we've spent more than the 300,000 just on snow removal. We've hit the 450 mark in some years. So I would not. This is a continuing trend upward, and we're getting a heck of a deal. I've used outside attorneys for other things, and it's 2 to 2.5 times typically the price, but I would not recommend going that low. You're going to pay whatever we have to pay, and you could end up paying more than what we have for contingency. So.
Okay, seeing no other hands raised, the number currently on the floor is $350,000. All in favor, please raise your hand. We have Representative Gauthier.
Oh, sorry, wrong. Nope.
No, sorry. Representative Gardner. V.C. Williams. Gustafson. Jean Shinbrot. Eben. Surf. Frickman.
Yes.
And Bailey. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All those opposed to $350,000? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20. Okay, if you could please lower your hands.
Point of order.
One moment, please. We're in the
Oh,
middle
sorry.
of a
Yeah, I'll wait.
vote. Anyone abstaining? Okay, that motion fails 8 to 20 to 0. What was your point of order?
I just noticed the number of people voting yes online. I was wondering if they knew they were voting on the amended lower number. Just
It was
because-
announced?
But they have connection issues, that's why.
Okay. So the number now on the floor.
I can
is-
hear it just fine.
The number now.
We're aware of that.
The number now on the floor is $385,000. Hold on, let me erase real quick. Okay. The number
Wait,
now.
Are we still on legislative? I got lost here.
Yes, we
No,
are
we're on legal
legal
services.
services, page 64.
64.
Page
That's what I
64.
thought.
The number now on the floor is $385,000. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, if you can put your hands down, please. I believe that was unanimous, but I'm going to ask the question. All those opposed? Representative Gardner? Anyone abstaining? So that motion passes 27 to 1 to 0. All right, the last thing on our budget tonight, or on our agenda tonight, is 1010 legal, or I'm sorry, let me try that again. 1010 executive management on page 66.
Account 1010, Executive Management. The committee moved the number of $348,876, moved by Representative Cerf and seconded by Representative Semeraro. Discussion was about the I believe increase, look at that. The increase due to a part-time position being added. Representative Cerf asked about the $68,000 of allowances and what that represented. Mr. Burt indicated it was the benefits in the town manager's contract. The committee passed this number unanimously, 5 to 0. I'd like to move the number of $348,876.
Point of information, no one online can hear anything?
Okay, so we are currently on item 1010, page 66. The number that was moved was $348,000, 870, I'm sorry, let me redo that. $348,876. The motion was made by Chair Gauthier. The motion was seconded by Representative Chase. Do you want to?
So, just one thing, I saw something pop up in the chat there. Can you hear us, Representative Eben, or other members online?
Yes, I can hear now, but it just froze and it cut out for like 30 seconons before
Okay.
when you were
And the
chatting.
2 comments just say we can hear.
Now you can hear. Do I need to repeat myself?
Do you need to do you need
Maybe
to?
you said it, but I didn't hear why the number is higher. than
Because of a
the,
part-time
town
position,
managers.
an additional part-time position. Representative Cerf asked about clarification on the $68,000 allowances item, and that is for benefits in the town manager contract. Contractual costs.
Are there any other questions? Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. What is the part-time position?
When I first arrived, there was 3 people in the office. I had a $100,000 third position. When she retired about a year into my being here, and I didn't replace that, what I did was take the HR position, and took 10% of their time to help out a little bit. That's no longer there, of course. Overtime has gotten incredibly busy. There's a large list of things I can't get to. So it's a part-time, no benefits, up to 19-hour clerical position to help out. What that'll allow is to take some duties away from Lisa, my assistant, so that she could take on a few kind of mid-level things, so that frees me up to do some other things. So.
Okay, and my other question would be, what are the benefits in the manager's contract that it involves this increase?
Well, that doesn't involve this increase, no. That's been in it for years.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing no other hands, we are voting on $348,876. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, if you could lower your hands, please. Representative Bamboise, if you could lower your hand, please. Can you lower your hand, please? Thank you. All those opposed? Any abstentions? That number passes 28-0.
I'd like to make a motion to recess to Monday, May 15th.
No.
No?
Oh, yes, to Monday, May, yes, you're right. I'm so sorry. Was there a second?
Second.
Second. All right, all in favor? All right, we will see you Monday on the 15th. Districts 2 and 7. Please bring snacks.
We're up again?
2 and 7.
We're up at 7? It's again.
Well, 7 rocks. I don't know. That's,
I know, I know snacks, I'll bring them.
who is District 6? District 2 and District 6. Do we have anybody in the room? That's why we didn't get it. They're like, we're not coming. We're not bringing you snacks.